damn right, we've gone out of our minds. We're watching Don Cheadle, he's heading for war. This film ain't perfect, but the intro's worth it. It's made up on the fly, you won't know the score. The Rock, hey, big mistake. His dad's just died and he's in a real state. He's flipped, built a whip, coming after you. Tony's a total twat. He's gotta pull himself together if he's gonna fight back. Let's go, Black Widow, and bouncy titties too. With posters on hands, understand if you can. He can be Iron Man here tonight. The man of our dreams, and he shoots laser beams as he flies away high in the sky. But Cheadle's a war machine, his suit's a fantasy, blasting a drone or three. And he's fine, this is not Tony's day, his spacesuit's flown away. What will Nick Fury say? This time, the blood poison is always on his mind. He's searching for a cure, his dad said he can find. So Mr. Stark, go make your brand new walk and stick it in your chest and feel the massive spark. The Rock, hey, big mistake. His dad's just died and he's in a real state. He's flipped, built a whip, and coming after you. Tony's a total twat. He's gotta pull himself together if he's gonna fight back. Let's go, Black Widow, and bouncy titties too. With posters on hands, understand if you can. He can be Iron Man here tonight. The man of our dreams, and he shoots laser beams as he flies away high in the sky. But Cheadle's a war machine, his suit's a fantasy, blasting a drone or three. And he's fine, this is not Tony's day, his spacesuit's flown away. What will Nick Fury say? This time, Cheadle's a war machine, his suit's a fantasy, blasting a drone or three. And he's fine, this is not Tony's day, his spacesuit's flown away. What will Nick Fury say this time?
Ba-da!
Jazzings.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Blackdog 109?
109.
Yes. 109.
109.
What are we going to call it?
Do you know what? I had a title.
Yeah.
But it's completely gone now. Oh,
and that's our title. I had a
title, but it's completely gone now.
Well, until we think of something better, I'm sure we'll think of something better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sip
God.
of tea.
Sip of tea. Hello, I'm Lee.
And I'm Darren.
And it is... Wow, it's 10 past 11.
Jesus H.
That's what you get if you choose a random intro out of thin air and decide to make a Girls Aloud.
Oh, this is it. So you're always thinking, always on the move. Moving targets harder to hit.
Don't know where we're coming from.
No,
so,
not do I.
Yes, because it's obviously an hour till Wednesday. When you think about it like that, basically we'll be skipping the news. Basically, because frankly, whenever we think of news, it doesn't matter because someone brings out something 5 minutes later and our news is out by an entire week.
Plus, we've got a rather full sack.
Yes.
And we've had a lot of mail as well.
Sac de Magique is full to overflowing.
Sac de Tragique, isn't it? That's what we ended up calling the old Sac de Magique.
Yes, indeed. So, we are going to drink tea in your ear. So all those slurping. We're going to do our week.
It's script tea.
Script tea,
not script sandwich. Script tea.
We're going to get that. We're going to get
script
that feature.
Beverage.
We will get that feature in one way or the other. One day we'll get it in.
Maybe we'll just start an all new podcast with just that.
Script sandwich.
Script sandwich. There you go.
Why not? And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of our week, just see how everyone is, catch up on it. Bit of Jim Moon's Profanosaurus, and then we're going to move straight in to Iron Man 2. Part of our Avengers marathon, which is now at the midway point.
Oh, yeah.
So, before we get into Tony Stark and his big chrome head, and his palladium poisoning, Darren, how's your week been?
How's my week?
How's your
week?
Yes.
to cut a long story short, this week,
You want to go to bed already, don't you?
no, yeah, myself and Laura blasted through the last season of Ashes to Ashes. So we've now finished the series.
And what did you think of the last season of Ashes to Ashes, Darren?
Well, it kind of everything starts falling apart. It just seems as though nothing is stable anymore.
No.
This is it, right? So it just things go from bad to worse. Basically, trust is an issue throughout this whole season for Gene Hunt and everybody involved. Mainly for Gene Hunt, it's mainly Gene Hunt becoming disillusioned with everything. So as it goes on, things happen, and it kind of like it blows his belief in people and things.
Okay.
As you'll see, it's got quite an emphasis on that, on trust and belief.
Wow. Yeah.
But got to the very end, and it's kind of like, well, how are they going to finish this?
Okay.
And it gets to the very last episode, and I've watched the last episode, and I'm not going to reveal what happened, because I think people should watch it anyway and make up their own minds.
Okay.
But in the very last episode, I had a few hours to think about it afterwards, went to bed, got up the next day, and yes, I do like the ending of the show, and I think it does make sense. And there are things you think back to after you watch the end, and you realise that they were a bit darker than they actually were. Take for instance, Gene Hunt is seen standing over this guy lying on the floor. He's just thwacked, or somebody's just hit, and he goes over and he says something to him, and the bloke starts screaming. Right? And D.I. Drake says to him, "What did you tell him?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "I told him the truth. I told him Man City was going to beat Man United in the final." But then you realise that he only tacked the Man United and Man City thing on the end. And the thing where he says, "I've just told him the truth." If you know how it ends, you'll realise what he must have told him.
Yes.
And that's why the bloke's laying screaming on the floor.
Yes.
Because it does make sense when you watch the ending.
Right.
You kind of put two and two together, and it's like, oh, I think I know what he said to him now.
Are you slowly but surely driving this podcast towards doing a Ashes to Ashes special?
I would love to do an Ashes to Ashes special.
I knew it.
But no, we'll. I'd have to go. I'd have to watch Life on Mars, do the whole thing. But no, as I say, finished it. Really enjoyed it. I've never seen Laura so enthusiastic to watch a series back to back like that. We just did the entire series in a day.
Right.
Series 3. No, in fact, almost the entire series. I think we watched one episode the night before, and then because we finished the end of season 2, and it was like. She's like, but the next one, I've got to see where it goes from here. Oh, God,
yeah.
So we did that, put it on, and then we just did the other 7 episodes in one day.
And then the sun came.
Bang, 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 bang.
And the chuds came.
And then the chuds came. So there we go. That's basically my week. Oh, I got to meet my new niece as well.
Hooray.
Born a few weeks ago.
Yes, the one who we had all sorts of connections over.
Good Lord, yeah.
Remember?
Bit of a trouble coming into the world.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But yes... Very lovely child because she does nothing but sleep. So there we go. So the most perfect child in the world.
The best child ever, yeah. That's a rare and valuable thing.
She'll wake up and go, "Give me a bottle." Literally, she just wakes up and goes, "Give me a bottle."
Right.
You give her a bottle, and that's it. She's off to sleep.
So she's Stewie Griffin.
She is, yeah. She is. "Hey, tea, mother.
Give me the bottle."
Yeah, whop them out. Yeah.
Give me a bottle. You
Vile woman.
Yeah, you'll finish Harridan.
You will rule the day. So yes, lovely little bundle of joy there.
Nice.
So anyway, what happened with your week, Lee?
Well, I had my dad's 70th birthday.
Oh right, okay. How did that go?
That went really well. Sprung on a little surprise. Which
usually Batman anyway with a sock full of coins. Yeah. Surprise, Dad! Take it.
Yeah. This is for not sending me to college. Anyway, no. So we sprung a surprise on him. Had a good time. Was had by all on Good Friday. Then spent I put on my super costume and went DIY man.
DIY man.
Yes. So that was good. Except DIY man kind of took hold of me in a really weird way of like, I must do everything. I have it all in my power to make things happen. So I finished the sanding in the bathroom. Yeah. And got covered in dust again. But I didn't drink baby oil this time.
You did.
So that was a good start.
Did you have the nail gun of George and Ruth?
No. What happened was I had the industrial gloves of Metcalf. And what happened was, essentially, we did the bathroom. We did the bathroom, got it all sanded down, started painting, but the paint has to dry. So Carol goes, right, okay, well, I'm going to go off. We got a little side alley. So that's like, go into the side alley, and it's all full of shit from building works and stuff that we've just never cleared out. Did all that. Cleared it out. Completely done, right? Anyway, so then I get these big gloves, and Carol's like, well, you know, the drain needs a bit of clearing. So I'm like, yes, I can get in there. And I stuck my hand in this drain. No joking, it's the closest I've ever got to putting my hand in a big bucket of shit. I've never felt anything quite so disgusting in all my born days. There must have been like decades worth of mud and slush and shit down this tube.
I was going to say, there weren't mud, mate.
Well, it ain't shit because it wasn't like an overflow from the toilet or anything. It was actually just the outside drain that comes off the roof. Right. But it was like kind of like, oh, fucking hell. And I put my hand in it, yeah. But the worst bit, put my hand down and goes. It's basically the drain is like a U-bend, bit like a toilet. So to keep the water so it doesn't. So nothing can come back up, if you know what I mean.
I think I know where this is going.
So I put my hand round. As I put my hand round, right, I just got it round, just go reach, trying to grab all the mud out, and I'm starting to pull out the mud, and I started pulling out like grass. And I'm thinking, oh, grass, what the fucking grass? So I'm pulling all this grass out, I'm going like that, and the water's still coming back up from where it was, so it's like, obviously there's water behind it, and it's coming through. And I've gone like that, and I've only felt something move. I have never screamed like a girl in all my born days. You will never have heard a 40-year-old bloke go and throw my hands up in the air. Fucking mud went everywhere. There's me throwing up. That fucking dirt was a nest.
Of what? Mice or?
Well, I'm hoping it was a mouse. Whatever it was, it didn't hang around once I decided to pull its nest apart, but it fucked off down that drain pretty damn quick, and it wasn't coming back my way because it's full of water.
Yeah.
But fuck it.
Did it clear the pipe?
Yes, it did, because the water went down, and now when rain came down, the water just stays at a level because it's obviously like a U-bend.
Right.
But there's something in that drain, and it didn't half move. And I've not as fast as I fucking did, but it moved.
Good job you didn't get bitten or anything.
Well, I had big, thick industrial gloves of Ruth and Dave.
So it didn't matter, they were quite thick.
Yeah, thick industrial rubber stuff. But it was
cool.
But it still, I touched something warm and it moved. And that was the end. That was all I needed to know.
You know what? If you can feel its body temperature through the gloves, they're not thick enough. That's it.
That's the rule of thumb.
They're not thick enough. Yeah, exactly. That's it. You can't feel any temperature, right? If you can feel temperature through them, they're too thin.
No, well, the thing was, the water was icy cold. I'll give you that. And then I pulled my hand out. Next thing I know, Carol, bring me the hose pipe. And we jammed the hose pipe right down there and fired it up the fucking up that pipe. Whatever's down there now is floating in a humongous amount of water. Because I stuffed that hose pipe right round that U-bend and turned it on.
Fire.
So that was that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I went to get fitted for my best man's suit.
Yes.
Well supplied by your good self.
Yes.
Well, let's just say I'm a man of increased girth, and I'm not just talking about my pants.
You're going to look like the fat fucking controller from bloody Thomas the Tank Engine, didn't you?
The top hat was a bit much, but I went with it.
Here's the ring, said Metcalf.
Hey, fucking hell.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well,
that's what Jim Moon should read out.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
We should get him to read Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm missing the dulcet tones of Ringo Starr, but I think he'd be a great replacement. There you go, Jim. Get on there. Read us some Thomas the Tank Engine.
Didn't Michael Angelis take over from Boys of the Black stuff?
I think he did, and he can sound very much like Ringo Starr.
Oh, right.
But
okay.
I think Jim Moon would be a shoe-in for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Thomas the slightly psychotic Tank Engine.
Edgar Allan Poe's Thomas the Tank Engine. Anyway, so
I'm sorry, I've got an image now of Cthulhu with like a waistcoat with long tails and a top hat on as the fat controller.
Yeah, Cthulhu underneath the island of Sodor. But anyway, yeah, Dunwich. But yes, it was interesting because they didn't have everything in your selection.
No, they did when we went. They didn't have everything there either, but they tried.
And so this lady had to keep getting bits and pieces which weren't actually of your selection, but were of the similar cut, but for my size, and were slightly different material.
I wish I'd known that you were going to there, because I would have phoned ahead and say, look, when he asks, tell him that is the outfit.
You never saw my face when they pulled it out. Because the trousers were like
looking like Colin Baker from fucking.
I tell you what, I looked
Doctor
like.
Who.
I looked like fucking Sylvester McCoy from Doctor Who.
Did you?
Yeah,
good?
Because it was. Cheers. Because my trousers were stripy trousers.
Yeah.
Right, which is fair enough. They were like grey pinstripey kind of thing, and I thought, right, fine.
Was that the right trousers, or was it the jacket that they had?
I think it's the right trousers.
All right,
but the jacket, they bring out the jacket, and it was like Liberace's greatest cast-offs. It was like a silver grey, and internally it was like bright fucking pink. I mean, it was like proper big fat gypsy wedding.
You should
pink.
have that, and then come into the wedding and go, hello, I'm the best man.
I'm super, thanks for asking.
Here's the ring.
And the thing was, then they brought out the waistcoat that went with it.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I was wearing a t-shirt like an idiot, I just thought I'd just go into Moss be measured up and then just walk out.
No.
And that's the thing. So I'm wearing my Whizball t-shirt, right? And they've got this. They said, well, you need to have a shirt. And I'm like, well, I haven't got a shirt on me. So they said, oh, well, here's a fucking waistcoat, just so you can check the. So we can check the
look like a cunt.
Absolutely. Fucking silver waistcoat with bright pink inlay, and then silver fucking jacket with bright pink inlay. I looked like I was going to an Essex wedding. That's all I can say. I just thought.
I've got such a picture.
I just thought for one fateful second, until they told me that this stuff was just for size measurements, I just had a vision that you would be turning up.
Going, that's for the purple tie, you cock.
Well, that's what I was thinking. And he had the fucking gall to ever go at my purple tie selection for my wedding. But then I suddenly thought, oh my God, does this mean I have to be really nice on the best man speech? And Laura's going to be sitting there in bright orange taffeta with a big cockatoo frill on her head.
That's right,
like
yeah.
Big fat gypsy wedding kind of affair.
With peacock feathers in it and shit like that.
And I just thought, oh, how am I going to put this to Darren? How am I going to put this in the fucking speech without getting lynched?
Just keep looking at the paper. Don't look up. Don't look at the bride. Don't look at the bride.
Don't look at the bride. Yeah. We'd like to thank Darren and the man from Del Monte. So, that was fun. The worst bit was the kids came down to see, and they were like, oh, you look brilliant, Dad. And I'm thinking, I look like a disco ball version of the Death Star.
You certainly do.
I just know.
You obviously look like a kids' TV presenter from,
Mr.
Crazy.
Tumble. Yeah.
Mr. Tumble, there we go.
Mr. Tumble or Mr. Maker. I was definitely in that sort of arena. I was just thinking, Darren, you cunt. You're an absolute cunt.
Trust me, when you put the full outfit on, you'll look dapper, sir.
All I know is by definition, I've got a cummerbund.
Yes. Well, it's good because you can tighten that. You can really tighten it. Imagine it like a corset, right? I mean, if you get Carol in there, she can put her knee in, right? Okay, give it a good old pull.
And I'll go for a Shatner special. where it's all rolled up underneath your tits.
Yep.
I look like I've got 4 tits.
No, you just look like you're well built because it'll all be up here. Look at me with my big muscles.
But it was just
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. If we bleeds, we can kill it. No, so that was interesting. And I thought, wow, yeah.
I think we're giving you the choice of which colour bow tie and cummerbund.
Bow tie.
Yeah, of course you get a bow tie to go with it because it's going to be
a fucking bow tie.
Yeah, bow tie. Well, that's what you wear with a dinner suit, mate. Black tie.
What is this? What is this? A James Bond cosplay Christmas?
It could well be if you play your cards right.
I'm going to get whacked.
Just don't tell Laura.
I'm going to get whacked in the testicles with a guy with a knotted rope.
Yep.
That's essentially. By the time I finish my speech, I probably will.
I've hired a small fat bloke with a bubble hat to fucking strike you from a distance.
Yeah. Do I have pussy galore?
Hey, you might very well do. Depends on who we've invited.
Oh God.
So, yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Do you expect me to give a speech? No, I expect you to die, Mr. Metcalf.
I probably will with the speech.
Yes.
Don't worry. Yes, die on my arse. Anyway, so that's been my week.
That's been your week.
That's been our week.
Shall we move on swiftly?
Shall we? We'll skip the news. There isn't much.
Isn't there any news at all?
Well,
nothing.
Hold on.
Even just one piece, just tiny piece. Nothing.
Giddy aunt, now you're putting me on the fucking spot.
Nothing.
We're not even going to run the jingle. I'm just going to fucking look at the first piece of news
Go on.
I can find on the web, interweb. Come on, interweb, help me out. Oh, fuck you, interweb. Why are you not working?
Go on, just do one of those, eeny, meeny, macaracca, air eye, dominica, chickabucka, lollipop, on, bomb, push. No, there we go. That's the news.
What the fuck are you talking about? Right, okay. Oh dear. Right, okay. Well, here's one because then we can hear Jim Moon explode from a distance. Yeah. There's a director called David Gordon Green. A scriptwriter, David Gordon Green.
Okay.
And he's talking about remaking Dario Argento's Suspiria.
Oh.
And it's actually now going to happen. Apparently brilliantly updates the world, presenting a rare opportunity to recreate an elegant and classic horror film.
They always say shit like that,
yes. Though it won't be infusing with Argento's lurid graphic style, apparently. So it's going to be basically boring retread.
Do you know, I've never seen the original Suspiria, so... Well, have you seen it?
I saw it a very, very long time ago. I will go so far as to say I don't remember enough of it to get really angry about this update, but I'm sure, like I say, Mr. Moon, who is an Argento fan, might have a few nails to spit by the end of that.
Well, let's phone the earthquake office and find out how the Richter scale's doing up in Darlington.
Bing bong, billy bong, bing.
We'll put an update on the Blackdog Facebook group and let you know what the actual meter actually read. So we've got them monitoring it all the time now.
Yes. Actually, interestingly, Ben Kingsley is apparently in line to be the next villain in the next Iron Man movie.
Yeah, I read that today.
Yes. Yes. Apparently, he's now regarded as the Huey Bowl veteran actor.
Huey Bowl veteran actor?
Yeah, well, because he's been in about 3 Huey Bowl films.
Has he? Oh, yeah. Was he in Blood Rain?
Yeah.
He was, wasn't he?
But apparently, he might or might not be playing the Mandarin.
So right, because when I first read it, they said, no, he's not playing the Mandarin. There it's like, well, we're not sure if he's playing the Mandarin.
And apparently the story is going to be based around the Iron Man story Extremis.
Oh, excellent.
So there you go.
I've just finished I actually read Extremis 2-3 days ago.
Yes.
And it's basically, the story is Iron Man getting a bit of an upgrade.
Yes, something to do with the super soldier serum, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, a bit of an upgrade is probably an understatement, but yeah.
And who is the main villain in that? Is that
there is no well-known villain. It's somebody who is dosed up with the Extremis serum,
right? And
it's what happens to him is why Iron Man needs to get involved. And trust me, this bloke, he's not going down easy.
Without a fight.
He hasn't got any suit of armour, but trust me, he's a fucking tough cookie.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's just a Joe Bloggs. Well, actually, it's a far right, extreme sort of white power dude that gets injected with the stuff and then just becomes literally indestructible. And he's got all these new powers, and he just goes mad.
Okay, well that at least sounds interesting. Especially sounds like the sort of thing Kingsley can do.
Yeah, there won't be this time anybody in a suit attacking him at the end of his film. Trust me on this.
Okay, fair enough. Well, while we're here and while we're doing the news, we might as well bloody carry on. Shame about the jingle. I should have put the jingle in.
Yeah, but anyway, go on.
Okay, well, in which case, we've got also news that the first X-Men First Class sequel is actually happening.
Woo!
And we know it's happening because 20th Century Fox have just snatched Jennifer Lawrence, aka Mystique, from Lionsgate for a shoot in January, which means that they've basically nicked her off the Hunger Games sequel, which is already in production.
Oh my word.
So they've nabbed her for 6 months, which is basically put her mockers on the Hunger Games sequel.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of teenagers who'll be really mad with that.
Well, it's not killing it off. It's not killing
No,
it off
I'm sure it's not. No,
still,
you couldn't kill the Hunger Games
still,
thing off at the moment.
She's still filming it right now, but the problem is that it'll have to go on hiatus over January for 6 months.
In terms of popularity, this is the thing that's kind of either going to equal Twilight or it will overtake it in the end.
It doesn't surprise me. A lot of people are talking about it as like better than Twilight, and there
That's
was something.
not hard.
There was something the other day. I was listening to one of the other podcasts, and they were saying that the guys who were doing the reviews went to a screening and saying, "Oh, so you like Twilight then?" And everyone in the screening apparently was going, "No." So there's actually a clear delineation. So actually, maybe the Hunger Games fans aren't going to get as basically sneered upon as Twilight fans.
No, they haven't got any. I don't think being a Hunger Games fan it will, cause you to have that much derision heaped upon you as the Twilight fans.
Ah, well, fair enough. 2 more things, and then we'll move on. Basically, Eduardo Sanchez.
I thought you were going to say Edward Scissorhands there for a moment.
Eduardo Sanchez, who you may remember or may not remember, is one of the directors stroke concept guys who came up with the Blair Witch.
Oh, right, yes.
Yes, he's finally resurfaced after the disaster which was Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, and
Jesus
we will be doing that.
Oh, God.
That is definitely shit cover goggles with like extra levels of shit coasted on top and baked into a hard crust.
I can't see that being a Thunderdome somehow.
No. He's back, and he's doing another found footage movie. This one's called Exists.
Exists?
And Exists, quote unquote, is a horror thriller that chronicles a group of friends who set up in a remote Texas woods for a weekend of fun and are stalked and hunted one by one by a Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
Replace witch with Bigfoot.
Yeah, but no, apparently it's like It Comes Looking for Them is probably the only twist. So yes, the press release states he's one half of the team that spurred the re-interest in found footage films with the Blair Witch Project, and it was in 1999. It's effective and scary, and so we will know that the found footage format is in good, safe hands, quote unquote, from the guy at Lionsgate. So we'll see. No interest? Personally, found footage films have died on their arse for me for a very long time, but
yeah,
you never know. They can work if they're done right.
Well, you haven't seen Chronicle.
No, I haven't seen Chronicle. I will be seeing Chronicle very soon. But a lot of people on Chud are going, no, Creature from Black Lake is easily the greatest Bigfoot movie. Let's not do that. And I've never seen Creature from Black Lake either.
Nor have I.
But anyway, so if anyone has, let us know. Blackdog at geekplanetonline.com. Is it any good? Is it worth even finding and maybe doing a review? But anyway, so there you go. So that's news, which we didn't actually plan on doing.
No,
maybe
but we did anyway.
Shall I run the jingle at the end?
If you want to.
Oh, it's okay, fair enough. I just don't feel right without running a sequence.
Run a jingle, go on.
No, we're not going to do it now. We're not going to do it now.
Go on.
We're not going to do it now, no.
Go on.
No, because we're going to do now Jim Moon's Profanosaurus.
Hush puppies. Euphemism. Breasts so impressive, members of the male sex are cowed into stunned silence. See also Christina Herricks.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Jim. And now we all have visions of Christina Hendricks in our heads.
Well, you see, I already had images of Scarlett Johansson. Now I've got an image of what's his name, Christina Hendricks. I wonder what would happen if those two having to get into a... No, come out of that. Come out, Darren. Come out. Oh, I've knocked the microphone over. Look
You
at
can
that.
kick a microphone that's now got a boom mic on it. How can you do that?
I'm going to do the Harry Hill thing. Well, I like Christina Hendricks and I like Scarlett Johansson. But who's better? There's only one way to find out. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say pot full of custard.
Which I can eat afterwards.
Whee! What do you mean afterwards?
Now.
Yay.
Okay. And speaking about Christina Hendricks, no, we're not talking about her, are we?
Aren't we?
No.
We could do a whole podcast on her.
No.
I mean, on her, literally. We could invite her to lay on the table and have the microphones on her. And how about those for...
Don't even joke about that kind of shit. We've already found out Patricia Tallman listens to this shit, and
does she?
Well, yeah, and then
we love you, Pat.
And then basically
we love you, Pat.
And then basically starts throwing in comments about us being telepaths. And now, just guaranteed we've said something about Christina Hendricks, and now it's going to turn out someone's going to send a fucking clip to her, and it'll just all go horribly wrong.
This is where she'll pick up listening. And we've just done a bit about ScarJo and Christina and the Hendersons.
Sorry, I was just eating some jelly. Shall we do...
have a small duck in here.
Shall we do some Iron Man 2?
Let's do some Iron Man 2.
Oh, crackling rosy tinted specs. We're gonna take us an old film and then review. That's what we'll do. We do it for you. I can turn invisible if I try real hard.
Right. Good to dust off an old jingle. Makes me feel better about not having one for the news. Right. Okay. So Iron Man 2, directed by Jon Favreau, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, looks a lordy Mr. Governor. Sorry, I just can't get over that after seeing him in, was it Ocean's 11?
Which is a film I'm sure we will do at some point.
Yes, but his fucking Cockney accent needs taking against the wall and shooting. Luckily, he didn't do it in this one. But
no, he
moving on, Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett. Mickey Rourke and Samuel L. Jackson. So, the film cost between $170 and $200 million, but recouped in its first month of release $623 million.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, exactly. It was released in 2010, April 26th, to be honest, so it's not far off of actually when it was released 2 years ago. So there you go, not bad going.
That's, almost bang on the money there.
Yeah. The film was released by Paramount Pictures and Marvel Studios. It was written by Justin Theroux, and he was famous for, or he had done, hold on, where is it? He had just done Tropic Thunder and was recommended by Robert Downey Jr. to rewrite Iron Man 2, rather. The storyboards of Iron Man for this one were actually done by Genndy Tartakovsky,
Oh, wow.
Did all the Clone Wars stuff, Samurai Jack. And
Clone Wars. Tendy's Clone Wars, brilliant. Gendy's, sorry. Especially the Mace Windu episode.
Exactly. And Shane Black, who is now the director and writer on Iron Man 3, actually gave some advice on the script, suggesting that Tony Stark should be more of a sort of Oppenheimer kind of character who was basically depressed after becoming Destroyer of Worlds on the Manhattan Project. The supervisor for the Iron Man armor was a guy called Adi Granoff, who had taken over since the death of Stan Winston. I think Winston only got halfway through Iron Man 2's pre-production before he died.
Right.
So it wasn't actually his last film. It was kind of the one after, kind of the midway point of his death. Terrence Howard, who had played Colonel Rhodes, had been replaced by Don Cheadle.
Do we know why?
Why is that?
Do we know why he was replaced?
Well, according to Wiki and IMDb, there was no explanation. There were contracts that were all fine, but apparently promises weren't kept and good faith negotiations didn't hold up, quote unquote, from Entertainment Weekly and Favreau. Favreau also mentioned that he didn't really enjoy working with Howard during Iron Man 1 and often reshooting and cutting his scenes because he was just being a pain in the arse from the implications here. Terrence Howard's publicist said he had a good experience playing in the first film, while Marvel chose not to comment on the thing at all. And in the meantime, Favreau and Theroux, while they were negotiating to get Howard back on the project, essentially minimised the role to minimise any issues they might have had with Howard should he return. There's lots of other stuff on that, but there's all backwards and forwards. The idea of Theroux saying that basically the role of War Machine was scaled back and then beefed up depending on what stage of drafts they were at and who was planned to be. So that's the reason why War Machine's role kind of seems a bit arbitrary.
Right. Because
it was kind of, they were scaling him down and scaling him back, and then all of a sudden it was like, we got Don Cheadle, okay, write this bit in, and then they gave him War Machine. Some people were actually saying that the War Machine was basically section was a whole big fuck you to Terrence Howard, because it was essentially saying, look, Don Cheadle is now officially War Machine. Up yours. The film wasn't the only aspect of the film that was kind of in a bit of a problem. The problem with Iron Man pre-production was that Marvel set the date for release while Favreau was still kind of just doing the press junket for Iron Man 1. And so he wasn't even in a situation where he could go ahead with making a movie. And they didn't have a script, they didn't have anything, and yet Marvel, in such a desperate need to cash in, I think we mentioned this briefly last week, in a desperate sort of need to cash in and hit a 2012 deadline for Avengers, knew that they had to get more of this stuff done, and so they wanted Iron Man to hit this 2010 deadline so it could act as a bridge between Incredible Hulk and the previous Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, which were already in production but were taking longer than expected. So basically Iron Man 2 was kind of devised partially to kind of fill that gap. The problem was that obviously with no script and Favreau not really working on development of the whole thing, the film kind of got off to a shaky start, which may also contribute to why Howard was being such a git, because he knew he had him over a barrel and wanted probably more money. That's the speculation. Yes. The Favreau himself said at the time that he originally envisaged doing Iron Man as a trilogy, with Obadiah Stane slowly becoming Ironmonger over the course of 3 films.
That probably would have worked really well.
And unfortunately, because Iron Man 1 was such a risky prospect, everything got crammed into the first one. And then when it became a success, it was like, oh shit, I've shot my bolt too early. Who are we going to get in for the next one?
Yeah.
Theroux and writer Mark Millar had suggested going in for a sort of combo of 2 characters, which was Backlash, who was later renamed in the comics Whiplash, and what's his name? The red the Red Dynamo or Crimson Dynamo. That's it. He was called a Crimson Dynamo, which was a Russian version of Iron Man, who was a physicist who developed his own Russian Iron Man suit.
I thought
for
that
the KGB.
Wasn't it Titanium Man?
No. So basically, they came up with Ivan Vanko, Ivan Vanko was the Crimson Dynamo, son of impoverished Soviet physicist Anton Vanko, who was the original Crimson Dynamo in the comics. And Backlash, who became Whiplash, and they basically said, well, we can't have too many villains, so they rolled the two together to make the version of Whiplash that we see here. Sam Rockwell was brought in as Justin Hammer to act as a sort of like out-of-suit villain, the corporate villain.
Yeah.
To face off against Iron Man.
Justin Hammer, incidentally, I'm sure he plays a part in the comics as well, but
yes.
he is actually in one of the early, I think it was the 90s Iron Man TV show. They did the animated show.
That's
Justin
right.
Hammer is a constant foil.
Yes,
for Tony Stark and Iron Man.
The Lex Luthor of the piece.
Yeah, he's kind of supplying weapons to the villains in that. 'Cause there's the Furious Five or whatever.
Yes,
not Grandmaster Flash's friends, of course, because that would be a bit rubbish. Just like, what's your powers? Oh, we rap.
Yes.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Following the white lines.
Yes.
Furious dreams of passion.
Were they blowing through their minds all the while they thought of you?
I think so.
Oh, that's nice. Anyway,
Anyway, Sam Rockwell apparently revealed on the Blu-ray, which I didn't get until like today, but I did see the film. That's all I'm saying. But he revealed on the Blu-ray that he was already in line to play Tony Stark. He was going to originally be Tony Stark.
I could see that working.
I could see that working, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so when he was offered the role as Justin Hammer, aka Tony Stark's nemesis, corporate nemesis, he took the role without actually even reading the script.
He just went for it.
And so, he never even heard of the character before he was contacted about the part, and was unaware that Hammer in the comics was actually an old bloke. Well,
he is. He is an old man in that one, if I remember from the show correctly.
But basically, Rockwell decided that straight from the off, before even seeing the script, that basically Hammer would be the loser version of Tony Stark. Everything that Tony Stark could have been if basically he didn't really measure up. And that's essentially how he played it. So as the plucky comic relief kind of character. We'll discuss that a bit later on. The character of Natalie Rushman / Natasha Romanoff was originally going to be played by Emily Blunt. My ears have just popped. But she was on Gulliver's Travels and unfortunately had to pull out because of that, which left us with Scarlett Johansson. Right, and so then what happened was you had Samuel Jackson, who initially was not going to return as Nick Fury after he saw the salary that Marvel was offering him. Again, case of knowing that the deadline was rushing like a freight train towards this production, and he basically was like, not sure about the paycheck. What a... So he was unsure about reprising the role of Fury until reaching a deal that would entail his appearance in up to 9 other films as the character.
9 other films from that point?
Yes. And so far he's done... Well, he also appeared... Doesn't he appear in Thor?
He appears in... There's only one film that he doesn't appear in out of the whole series, and that was The Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
You never see him in that.
No.
He's
appearing. He's
mentioned, but he's not in it, nor is Agent Coulson.
No. So anyway, principal photography began April 6th, 2009, which basically was exactly a year. So they had exactly 1 year to film everything and do all the special effects, which is a very, very tight deadline. It was filmed mainly in Pasadena and worked under the fake title of Rasputin. and it was also filmed at Edwards Air Force Base. A post-credits scene depicting the discovery of a large hammer was filmed on the set of Thor at the time, and some of it was reused in the film. Jon Favreau revealed that the scene was filmed through anamorphic lenses to match Thor. So they basically had to change all their camera work and everything to make it look like the shots were straight from Thor itself. The last bit I'm going to say before we move on was the Grand Prix Monaco sequence,
Yeah.
was actually filmed in a parking lot of a studio.
Really?
Called Downey Studios. I don't know if it's actually anything to do with Downey Jr., but I don't believe so. Let's just make sure. It's just a film studio in Downey, California.
Got you.
And that was because permission to film on the 2009 Monaco Grand Prix was actually awarded, but then was retracted by Bernie Ecclestone because he couldn't get enough cash off it. So again, it's like everyone knew that this film got absolutely butt-fucked by the fact it actually had only 12 months in total production time. That's including writing the script, everything. And everyone knew that it was such a tight turnaround that everyone just clamoured for the cash.
So let me get this straight. Bernie Ecclestone, who's probably got swimming pools full of money, complained about the fact that he wasn't getting enough money just for someone to put a camera on site and just film.
Yes.
Doesn't have to do anything. He wasn't doing any work or anything like that, but he complained about the amount of money he was being given for doing fuck all, basically.
So essentially, and this is another great little thing for those anti-CGI people.
Yeah.
That basically what they did was they took a handheld cam to Monaco to film one sequence with nothing on the track, right? And there were no actors, nothing. Empty track, entirely empty.
My God, really?
So everything you see with them actually at the legitimate Monaco track was completely digitally added to a completely empty set.
Jesus.
Yep.
I'm going to have to go back and watch the extras on that.
Cars, people, cameras, helicopters.
Didn't even notice.
All digitally
How
re-added.
fucking cool was that?
Digitally re-added from stuff that was filmed at Downey Studios and put into an empty track.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. See, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is when you look at CGI and people go, "Oh, CGI is a bit rubbish." No, you didn't see anything. I defy anyone to have told me they knew that was the case.
I certainly didn't.
So, I'll leave it there. The reviews are generally mixed, I think is the safest thing to say.
Yeah.
A lot of the critical reception kind of holds around about the 74%, 75% mark. You know, average ratings are 6 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes. That kind of thing. Its general consensus is it isn't quite the breath of fresh air Iron Man was, but the sequel comes close with solid performances and an action-packed plot. Various people have said, it isn't as much fun as the previous one. And that is summing up because there is a whole section on the whole thing of people essentially saying the same thing. It's as good as it could have been, but it isn't what the first one is. So, there you go. Darren, what did you think?
Well, personally, doing the old laying cards on the table to begin with,
Yep.
I've got no problem with Iron Man 2 at all.
Right.
I can sit and watch that film. I have no problem with it. I
Okay.
sit there and I enjoy watching that film.
Right.
The whole thing there about it wasn't as much fun. No, it wasn't. There wasn't. There was lots of stuff in there that wasn't fun. It's the main subject being the fact that Tony Stark is slowly being poisoned by his own life-saving system. Which I kind of like because it's the sort of, I don't know, it's this person who's quite sort of like cocksure of himself. And then something like this happens, an invention he was sure about, and he realises it's not as perfect as he thought it was.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of I don't know if it's a humbling experience or what, but it made him, maybe it brings him down a bit.
Yeah. It makes him reckless is what it does.
Well, there's that as well. That's another thing I'd like to mention as well. The fact that Tony Stark is a person who loves life.
Yeah.
Right, this is it. I mean, he loves living it to the full. He just loves enjoying himself. And to have suddenly this death sentence hanging above his head, it's like, how does that affect a person of his disposition? He can't handle it.
Yeah.
Which explains what he does in the film, as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people have problems with the way it goes, the way he acts in it, but to me, no, I've not got a problem with that at all. That's somebody who's not used to feeling like this. It's this is a whole new ball game for him. This is like, this is your mortality, my son.
Yeah.
You're not as indestructible as you think you are. And I'm sure for anybody that can be quite a wake up call.
Yeah.
All right, fine, he doesn't know how to handle it, so he goes off the rails. And S.H.I.E.L.D. come in there and they give him a reason to buck up his ideas and actually get focused and try to sort the problem out. So as far as I'm concerned, I've got no problem with that whole going off the rails thing, him becoming reckless, him becoming a bit useless.
Yeah.
Dropping right down to that level. Don Cheadle basically smacking the shit out of him in the when he's in the other suit. Take a look at your fucking self, you stupid twat. What have you become?
But then that doesn't solve it. Doesn't solve anything by turning up in a silver suit and starting a fight in a party.
No, but hold on.
Yeah,
this is like Tony Stark. He's a bit drunk. He's in the Iron Man suit. You're not going to try and tell him not to do this. Just going up to him in your own civvies. You're going to want to get in something as equally powerful as that, and try and just at least restrain him. Right? He goes if he's like as unstable as he was there. I mean, you saw him. He just started having a pop at him. Right? If he's standing there in his civvies, that's it. That's the end of Don Cheadle. End of Colonel Rhodes.
Yeah.
It's a very short sequence. Tony Stark learns nothing. Maybe becomes even more guilt-ridden because he's just killed his friend.
Yeah.
It's not going to help the situation. So Rhodey did the right thing. He goes off, gets the suit, comes back, acts as the bouncer.
Yeah.
Tony, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And of course, even though he's sober, Tony Stark has a lot more experience in the suit than Rhodes has. So this is why they're kind of on equal footing. Tony Stark being drunk, he's not at the top of his concentration. But then again, Rhodey isn't exactly sure of the suit. He's not really been that experienced in it. No. So this is why the fight is more or less equal.
Yeah.
Had Rhodes been a little bit more experienced in the suit, then of course we wouldn't have had that, big fight. He would have been, that's it, I'm putting you down. He would have known how to do it.
Yeah.
So I've got no problems with these things. Even, I've got to say, there was a lot of complaints in the first movie about, Obadiah.
Yeah.
In this one, the motives of the villain are quite clear. There's a reason for him doing what he does. His dislike of Tony Stark is laid out there for you to see. And to me, I've got no problem with that. He wants revenge for the way he's brought his father down. He's seen his father slowly deteriorate over time. And that deterioration has done something to his mind.
Yeah.
It's not just a 5-minute thing, as I'm sure most people probably think it is. No, this is a man who has slowly watched his father become eaten away.
Yeah.
So they're embittered. You can see where this anger is coming from.
Yeah. I mean, I do get that. I do have problems with the film. I'll lay that on my cards on the table right there. But what I think it isn't so much with anyone's motivation, because I'll tell you one thing. For all its failings of this film, I do have a few. The one thing that does stay consistent is the focus is on character and story ahead of villains. So again, the same problem as the first one, which is the villain is essentially quite weak. Because frankly, how do they get rid of him? It's a 5-minute. Oh, we'll just shoot each other, blow out the windows, and he's dead. And then he pulls a predator. And that's, to me, as a finale, isn't a very satisfying one. But the character stuff, it wasn't really my problem. I don't want to just jump in and sort of stop you dead. But I think the thing for me was that a lot of the stuff felt kind of padded out and extended, and basically extended Avengers trailers.
No, that's where I disagree with a lot of people as well with the S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. It was just there. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't overpowering at all. It needed to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it's overpowering. It wasn't that. It was more a case of, like, all the way through it, it's, you know, we want him to be in the Avengers. You've got to sort this out. You've got to sort out your poisoning. You've got to sort yourself out. Blah, blah, blah. Pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and come in. And then Avengers. And even when it comes to, and I don't know if you spotted this, but even when it comes to the thing with the final scene with him sitting in front of, you know, Nick Fury and reading his little dialogue thing, you know, his little brief.
Yeah.
And he's doing that. In the background on the telly is the footage from the Incredible Hulk, of the Hulk going on the rampage in the actual.
Is it? I didn't see that.
In the university. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so obviously that's the prelude to Stark turning up in the end of the Hulk, so you can see where the films overlap. But
that's a bit of a reverse overlap.
Yeah, well, it is. You're actually
That
sort
one.
of. It's almost like Iron Man 2 is kind of a flashback for Incredible Hulk, and you kind of get the sort of like the where it's all coming along. But it's a new story. It's essentially the new story playing, and you know it's cool. But you get this whole thing of like, I don't think you can be in the Avengers at the end, and it's like, well, what the fuck have you been doing for the last 2.5 hours, Fury? You've been clear yourself up, sort yourself out, clear yourself up, sort yourself out. Actually, we don't want you.
No, hold on. This is the thing. It's not Fury that's been taking notice of this. It's Natalia Romanoff, right? She's the one that's giving in the report. And it's things like almost blowing a cover and stuff like this. You know, it's the way she's seen him go. It's like, well, fine, you've pulled yourself. It's like Tony Stark said, Nick Fury says to him, like, you've done this. He goes, oh, that was like, I'm better now because that was just last week. And it's like, well, just because you've pulled yourself back from that doesn't mean to stay you're going to say like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep you on as a consultant for now and see how you go. We're not going to give you, because we don't think you're stable enough yet.
Yes.
So I can understand that. That's like, it isn't fixed in 5 minutes because he's fixed this thing. It's like there's a lot of other stuff going on in his mind at that time. It's not just Tony Stark's problems, I think, suddenly become a lot more deep-rooted than just a 5-minute fix. You know, they give him the focus and everything, but it's like, we've seen you at your lowest. Are we sure that you're not going to go back down there?
Which is fine, but again, it's like it's kind of convenience. It's kind of weird plot convenience, and it feels. I don't know if this is just me kind of reading into it because I knew it took only 12 months to get the entire thing done, but it does feel rushed, and it kind of feels like the script that we're watching is kind of like a first or second draft, because there's even things like old Whiplash and his stupid bollocks about the bird, you know, doesn't.
It might bite.
I would my Boyd, which is, you know, fine. It's a gag, but like it's like, well, yeah, don't keep pushing that because that's not really that funny. But on top of that, it's like, how did he know that Stark's going to be in Monaco? And secondly, how did he know that not only is Stark going to be in Monaco, but Stark's going to be driving a car, which he only at the last minute kicks the driver out of?
Well, there you go. That's a hole there, of course.
No, I'm not
because
trying.
But nobody knew that he was going to drive that. No, you're right. It is what I'm saying. Just validating what you've just said there. It's like everybody is like,
what's he doing?
Exactly. It's like, you know, Pepper Potts is like, is that who I think it is on television? You know, it's like Justin Hammer. I love that bit though, where it's like, you know, Stark's basically rubbing his nose and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's that look at the camera, and he does that, and you see Justin Hammer sort of step back a bit.
Exactly.
Look,
yeah.
Is he pointing? Does he know I'm watching him?
Exactly.
So no, that's valid. I mean, because nobody knew he was going to do that, and that's kind of the sort of crazy, impulsive. I've got a death wish.
Yeah, which is all cool. I mean, like I say, they're sort of plot holes, but let's be honest. You know, we're in the land of a man who puts on a suit and flies around the world and shoots people in the face with little Minnie Ripperton rockets. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but it does kind of, when you heap it on top of everything else, the whole thing of him trying to find a new chemical and fix his problems and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes the film sag, whereas in the first film had all those problems, like how did he do this, why did he do that, but it belted along at such a pace. I mean, you know, that whole thing I was talking about last time with, like, why would Obadiah stay and kill the man who makes the inventions and then sell the weapons to the person who wants to kidnap Tony Stark? And it's like, only when you're sort of sitting back in a situation like this, or, you know, in a pub or somewhere, you suddenly go, yeah, actually that made no fucking sense whatsoever. But you're kind of going dun, 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 all the way through. Lots of fun. Punching, death. Punching, quip. Da-da, and it's the film's over. And you're like, I really enjoyed that. Silly, but I enjoyed it. This one, they tried to do that, but that whole shield section in the middle and trying to cure his poison and everything doesn't really go anywhere. He kind of cures it, but to what end? I mean, to what point does that actually... What does that actually do with the story?
Well, I can tell you where that probably comes from, the whole idea about him dying. Now, we agree that the Avengers... Oh, I should say the Avengers films that we are watching at the moment, the characters in this, are kind of based on the Ultimate series from Marvel.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
which is for anybody who's not read the Ultimates, it's the more realistic versions of superheroes.
More modern day updatings.
Yeah, they've got the human failings are a lot more
Obvious.
Some of them are a lot more severe, especially with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh god, yes.
Yeah, that's quite a
Bit of spousal abuse
nasty,
going on there.
nasty little bit at the getting near the end
I
of the
forgot
novel.
you've read the Ultimates now.
This is right. So this is where I can see the link now, because there is something. I won't spoil it for people who've not read the Ultimates, but there is something very similar to the whole poisoning thing. It's not anything to do with poisoning, but there is something as life-threatening going on with Tony Stark in the Ultimates as there is in this. Although this one in the Ultimates may not be so easy to solve, you know, because I know the Ultimates are like, if you die in the Ultimates, you're not coming back. There's none of this, you know, he was in a lead-line fridge or any of that bollocks, you know. Heroes stay dead in the Ultimate series.
Exactly, yeah.
So I can see where that has come from. I think that maybe that was an idea from the Ultimates, something along that lines. And they've said, well, how can we do the same thing in the film? I know. Let's do this with the arc in his chest. So I can see where that's come from, and I like that. You know, I must admit it's because I've read the Ultimates that I know this, and so I like the link, or I can kind of understand where that's come from. So
Speaking about the Ultimates just for 1 second, and speaking about the Avengers for 1 second, you know the Black Widow mini-sode thing that we've seen so far with her on the chair and beating those guys up?
Oh, yes.
Stop that. Right.
Sorry.
Okay.
I can't help it. I keep going there.
Okay, fair enough. But you've got to stop it now.
Okay.
Right. So, you know when she's stuck on the chair?
Yeah.
I said stop it!
Oh, don't
Fucking
beat
hell.
me.
Right. So she's stuck on the chair. Fucking stop it! The thing is, she's on that chair, and no, stop. Right.
I'm not going there.
She's on the chair, and the thing that Coulson says on the phone is that Hank Pym has been compromised.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. There's
So it's Ant-Man, Giant Man.
It's I'm. Oh right, okay. Because it's not Pym she's talking about. She's talking about. She doesn't say Pym. She says
Hank's been compromised.
Yeah, Hank as in Hawkeye. Because that's Hank. That's his name.
Really?
Yeah. Trust me, I know some stuff about the Avengers movie that you don't. At least
Okay.
one thing. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I thought Hank Pym was Giant Man, as in the bloke.
No,
who-
Hank Hawkeye.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought Hank was. Oh God. Oh right. I thought. And this may be just
No,
me.
it's Hank. He says Barden's been compromised. Hank Barden.
Barton.
Barton. Sorry, it's either Barton
Clint
or
Barton.
Clint. That's it. So he says Barton's been compromised.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, all I was going to say was it was just an interesting nod to the Avengers that's in the Ultimates. But obviously, we've just wasted 5 minutes of you dreaming away like fucking ScarJo. No. Just to come up with nothing.
I'll think of something else. Christina Hendricks. Oh God.
Oh, good God. Right. Anyway, so as far as I'm concerned, the problems really with Iron Man 2 is that the whole thing with the chest infection and all that kind of thing is it's all very interesting and it's a good way of making him very nihilistic and very kind of fatalistic and kind of risk taker and kind of resetting him back to pre-Iron Man Tony Stark. But for my money, ultimately, what does it do? It doesn't serve much in a way of a plot. It doesn't. All it does is it effectively puts him out of the picture for a good third of the film.
Well, this also gives the authorities the ammunition they need to try and get the suits, because it's like, look, you've got this weapon, whether you like to call it a weapon or not, you've got this weapon that we could really use, and you're not giving it over, and we want to know why. It's like Don Cheadle says to him, I've literally had to stop them from sending the tanks up your driveway, demanding the suit because of the way you're carrying on. Because Tony Stark's, like, hey, look
Is
at
it
me.
because of the way he's carrying on?
It is because he won't give the suit over. He says, "Don't worry, I'm literally going to protect the world." Right, and then he starts going off the rails, and it's kind of like, hold on, you're in charge of this piece of equipment that's supposed to be protecting us. As they keep emphasising, they do mention it a few times.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't even look after yourself. How the fuck are you going to look after the rest of us? He's there at his party, drunk off his... No, I mean, not that everybody sees it, but...
Off his knockers while wearing the suit.
Yeah. It's like the whole thing with him sitting in the donut, while he's eating his thing. He's just... He
Sir,
doesn't...
can you step down from the donut?
Yeah, exit the donut.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, going back to the original, I just think that the first one was really quickly paced, so the flaws didn't make themselves quite so apparent. The slackness of the middle third of this film works to its detriment, and it's because you are by the time Iron Man gets his mojo back, and Don Cheadle with his big fucking gun sort of suit is, while it's cool, it does feel like the actual real plot of this is essentially Justin Hammer makes a weapon, gives it to a madman, the madman goes off the rails, and it's Iron Man comes to save the day. That's essentially it. Really.
Well, I think it's...
And the rest is all about getting Iron Man into the Avengers being set up, the Shield setting up, activating the Avengers, and it's all just...
I don't see it like that at
into
all.
that.
I think it's... I'll tell you what I see before me, right, is I see Tony Stark giving it the big un, saying, look at me, I'm fantastic, I'm protecting the world.
Pride before the fall thing.
Pride before the fall, yes.
Yeah.
He finds that his poisoning is getting worse, slowly becomes like, fucking hell, I'm not immortal. Justin Hammer sees this, thinks, time for me to get in there. There's the man who almost took down Tony Stark, gave him a good run for his money. Him and me together, brilliant. I'm the money, he's the brains. Us two together, we can finally put Tony Stark where I think he deserves to be, which is below me. I can be better than him. So, in his stupidity in believing this, not really thinking about it, he breaks the bloke out of prison. Ivan is like, I'm going to play along with this because look at the technology I can get my hands on, means to an end. I'll play along with this bloke until I'm ready to kind of go for it. He kind of does sort of like Tony Stark does in Iron Man. Where he pretends to be making the weapons, but actually he's making himself an even bigger weapon.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what he does. So it's like a stepping stone to Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Helps this bloke out, controls his entire army just to get at this man.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of see that. I mean, now I think about it, it does make a bit more sense, but I think I just think that the film, for me, doesn't feel as fun. I think that's generally the point.
Oh, I would totally agree. There's not that much fun. There's not that much fun in it. But then again,
And there's two. And again, the problem that it has is it spends more time with ineffectual villains than it does with Tony Stark. Doing Iron Man. It's the Batman problem that the villains and the side plots push the main character out of his own film. Because really, how much do you actually see Tony Stark doing Iron Man stuff in that film? Yeah, I mean, I'd argue next to nothing until the finale. And then the fact that it's just Rhodey basically nicking his suit, and I've got one very small problem with that, right? One teeny tiny problem.
One of it's the teeny tiny problem that I've got, which is the whole.
How does he power the fucking suit?
Exactly. He shouldn't be able to power that suit at all because it's a prototype.
Exactly. And the thing that still stands with me with that whole thing is it's like, why would Stark actually leave a power supply in a prototype suit? And even if he did have it in the prototype suit, how did it not sort of skewer Rhodey through the chest? And once Rhodey gets to the Air Force Base, how the fuck does he get out of it?
Well, you know what? Where the suit's concerned, and this is maybe me making a bit of a leap, because he does mention that the only people who can pilot the suit are him and Tony. So I'm guessing that Tony
has done something for him,
has trained him on this, and he's like, because he says in the original film, try the suit, put the suit on.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe later. So I'm guessing some sort of training has gone on, because how the hell would he be able to operate the suit in the first place? He wouldn't know how to fly. He's obviously done something with it before.
And I have to commend old Ivan on having a spine and hips which can withstand twice being struck into a wall by a Bentley at a high speed, Rolls-Royce Phantom.
Yeah.
How does anyone get away with that?
Okay, well, let's look at that scene even closer, right? Let's look at something else that happens in that. How much do you think the suit that Tony Stark has in the case, how much do you think that weighs in general?
Quite a bit. I'd probably say.
Well, it can't weigh. I mean, it can't weigh really sort of like too much, because you can carry it around in a case.
Yes.
So I suppose it is fairly lightweight. But really, with the weight of the suit, the added weight of the suit, plus Tony Stark himself, it's a little bit hard to believe that Whiplash can throw him right up in the air. If you're really going to start picking at stuff, then it's like...
Well, it's like how...
You might be able to pull him over, but it just flings him as if he's a paperweight.
And also, if Whiplash gets his unprotected head smashed in the face by a headbutt from a man wearing an iron helmet with servo-powered neck, and then gets punched in the face by said servo-powered arm, an arm that can pick up a car, as we've seen before, I suspect that old Ivan's head would not be on his shoulders, but would be somewhere in the 18th row.
Well, that is if Ivan hadn't had 400 gallons of Botox put into his face, of course. Okay, because with all the best will in the world, that's what his face looks like.
That cushions the blow.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that. It's like you've either had something really bad done to your face, or that's Botox, mate.
Yeah. I liked Stan Lee's appearance as Larry King.
It's the only time in any of these films that I haven't minded Stan Lee just being on it, because he's in there for a second, he's got nothing else, he doesn't really have a chance to react, and it's that off the cuff joke. Oh yeah, and here's Larry King, and it's like what? And it moves on really quickly. So fine, if you've got to have bloody well Stan Lee in another bloody superhero movie.
Hello, true believers. Excelsior.
Fucking hellfire.
Yeah,
I wonder what he's going to be in a bloody Avengers.
Probably all of them.
Yeah. It's going to be the bloke that looks after the Avengers place or whatever.
Well, he was in what's it? He was in the Fantastic Four. I saw that the other day. He's the postman in the Baxter Building.
He's been in that. He's in Thor. He's in Captain America.
Oh dear, oh dear. Right. Okay. Well, I think we've kind of examined it enough. We'll have to move on to some feedback now.
Okay. Did you want to say anything more? Because I took quite a bit of time there.
No,
saying
I
what
mean,
want to say, but...
I mean, to be quite honest, there's not, for my money, there's not a lot to say about it. I enjoyed it more the second time round. I'll be honest with you. Oh, don't think that. I enjoyed it more the second time round, for sure.
I must admit, I enjoyed the last battle a lot more. The whole thing with the drones and everything.
The whole thing felt a lot more solid the second time round. However, I do think that ultimately it felt like a first draft or second draft of a script. It felt like bits that you would see someone come along and go, that doesn't make sense. That point from there to there doesn't make sense. That sequence doesn't make sense. I mean, Piper Potts is now a CEO of Stark Industries, and she's all super sensible and everything. She doesn't need to get in that fucking car, yet somehow she sticks herself in harm's way with Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau wandering around with the suitcase. And it's like, why? And it's just to put her in danger. It's the Margot Kidder thing, you have to stick her on a helicopter so that Superman can save her kind of situation. It's like, why? She didn't need to be in a helicopter, just because. And so those kind of things were kind of a bit wearing. And like I say, it's just, all in all, it just felt like someone else would have taken that film from that position and with a bit more time would have just sat there and said, well, that doesn't make sense. Let's kick that out. There's too much stuff going on here. Justin Hammer, for example, is such a knob from start to finish that you're sitting there going, yeah, okay, so nothing he makes works. He's not really a credible threat at all. And the fact that Whiplash is kind of out of the picture for 90% of the film kind of, again, doesn't make him a credible threat. When he turns up, he's disposed of so quickly at the end. It's just like, really, what did you turn up for? And why did you take your stupid fucking helmet off? And it's just like, so we can show you that there he is. And it's just like, it all felt like there was too many bits where we were just saying, right, okay, we've got to kill him. How can we kill him? Well, we've got to take his faceplate off. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we'll do that thing that they did in the fight in the party. And it's like, it just felt too rushed. And then when it came to bits where they had to tidy it up, they didn't. So like that Monaco race thing was a complete waste of time. It just felt like, hey, we'll go to Monaco. Oh, we can't. But let's have him chop the cars up. And it's like, why? Why would he do that? Why would he even turn up there? How would he even know to go there? And there's so many bits like that. It just felt like, it's just connecting dots, just to purely connect dots. It's like, how can we get him in front of Justin Hammer? Let's stick him on telly. How can we get him on telly? Well, we'll have him at the same thing, attacking Iron Man. And it's just like, oh, please. And the whole thing of Justin Hammer retrofitting the Iron Man suit to make War Machine, again, just feels like, well, that's fine, that's cool and everything, and that's dandy, but really, what does it add to the tale? Especially when it's like, put all the weapons into the suit, and then we've already been shown that Justin Hammer's a complete knob. So Warhammer is immediately devolved to the second fiddle because he's got a suit that's made by a knob that shouldn't work.
Well, it's just the weapons
don't work.
That are made by the
Cuban cigar missile, which should go dink and sits there like a duff Roman candle.
I did like that bit. This is it. I'm gonna bust his bunker.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
I'll tell you what they can't do now. Now they've done this, they can't do the whole demon in a bottle story with Tony Stark.
No,
because it's now kind of been done.
Well, Favreau wasn't going to do that. He was never going to do that because the problem was he was going to deal with Tony's alcoholism, but he wasn't going to do it in that whole, a whole movie about a man going downhill and then basically facing himself in the mirror and going, I've got to shape up, and then spending two months shaping up. Because frankly, not much of an Iron Man film.
It wouldn't have been too much shaping up, though, would it? It would have been a montage.
Well, exactly. It would have been the whole thing
to show the passage of time.
But the whole point is, it's just I don't know. I mean, the film just feels meh at the end of it. The end result is meh. There are bits of it I like, bits of it I enjoy, bits of it I just find internally dull, and moments like which are so moments of convenience. Yeah, Tony suddenly watching a reel of his father saying, "Tony, this is your answers." Only I've written it in a way that even with Jarvis the supercomputer, you can't really fucking decipher it until the very, very last second. It's like, oh god. So no one has ever seen that reel of film before. No one. No, not at all. Tony hasn't watched it. No one's watched it ever. Not even the cameraman working out what the fuck he's doing. No one. And it's just all those kind of things where it's just like, how do we get from point A to point B? Oh, fuck it, let's just have his father tell him. How do we get Whiplash here? Oh, we'll just have him appear on telly. How do we get him in front of Stark? Well, we just have him turn up at the same thing, fully armed, into the Monaco Grand Prix. Yeah, because he would be vetted, obviously. A world event. It's just things where you just think, you've got no idea where this story's going. You're just throwing shit at the screen. And like I say, the whole, shape up and ship out thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. for no real reason. I mean, they want him on the Avengers in the first place, but then they don't, and then they do, and then they see him go off the rails, and it's like, well, actually, we don't. It's like, really? It's all a bit flip-flop.
I see as the whole defence thing for the country, the whole nuclear deterrent thing that he goes on about. It's like they step in, look, pull yourself together. If you're going to use this suit and protect us, you need to be in shape.
Yeah.
So maybe that was Rhodes calling them in.
Yeah. I did like the Iron Man callback though, when Coulson sees the shield. And goes, where do you get this? And he goes, I don't know, but it's perfect. And he's like, yeah, it is, but where'd you get it? And he's like, yeah, just shove it under this fucking large Hadron Collider I just made out of some toilet tubes.
Did you like? I mean, personally, I thought the whole Black Widow sequence where she goes in and kicks off. I love the bit that she's going around literally kicking everyone's ass, and Happy Hogan is there. He finally defeats the one bloke he's been whacking the shit out of for the past half an hour. And he's like, yes, I've done it. And he looks down the corridor and there's like a bloke, all these people on the floor, and one dangling from the ceiling.
Pair of feet just hanging off the ceiling. Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff that you should have got. You got in Iron Man 1. That kind of mad, insane humour, things belting along at a ridiculous pace. But 20 minutes of fucking supposed, improvised dialogue between, Sam Rockwell and Mickey Rourke, going, I want my bird, which is fine, but it feels like what Rourke did in fucking Expendables. They just start talking about things that are just completely random and pretending that they're improvising. It's just like, really? You've got a pet parrot. We know that, Mickey, alright? Thanks very much. Oh, you're going to keep going on about it. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Bored now. Keep talking about the bird. Yes. Bored. Bird. Shut up, Mickey. Let's move on with the fucking plot.
So you wasn't impressed with the bird then?
No, I wasn't impressed with any of that Justin Hammer, Ivan Vanko Wanko business, because it just went on and on and on. For what reason? Oh yes, I haven't built these drones properly. I haven't put a head on them. Oh, we need a head on them. We need them to be a suit. No, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Oh, fuck off. Just build the fucking drones. Do it off screen. You bought me in, I've made these drones, I've taken them over. You don't need any of the comedy moments of I've put a camera in, I need a helmet, I need the people in it. The only comedy bit with Justin Hammer I actually thought was really funny was the video they play at the hearing with the guy landing in the Iron Man suit, and then half the body just turns around and you hear, oh! Yeah. that was fine.
Yeah, he did survive that there. Yeah. The pilot is still alive.
He has no control of his bowels, but there. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, it was. Although Mickey Rourke spent several months on the treadmill weight training, he was initially unable to move around and use the whip props of the whiplash outfit due to its sheer weight. To get around this problem, Rourke would wear a heavy vest and subsequent physical training sessions to acclimatise his body to moving while wearing heavy armour. Which kind of, I don't know. It just says to me everything. He just kind of slouching around the entire set all the fucking time, and then was just what? At the end, he's standing there holding them both, and then gets shot in the face by the pair of them. He's a fucking useless villain. Anyway. Oh, and Pepper Potts, who has to stare at something which has been killing everyone, and then suddenly starts going beep, 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 with a bright red light. I wonder what that's going to do, Pepper. No, you stand there and stare at it, love. Go on, keep staring at it. Yeah, fucking hell. Anyway. Right, I suppose we better move on.
I think we better get on to feedback, since you do quite a bit of it.
Yes. Right, okay, so we're going to move on. So, we have Anthony James to start with. And Anthony writes. Oh, God, blimey. Sorry. He writes, "Hi Lee, hi Darren. How the devil are you? Probably tired, so I'll get on with it and try to be as brief as I can. I have a distinct lack of enthusiasm when it comes to any of the Avengers movies. I didn't read any of these comics when I was a kid. Sure, I'd seen Iron Man cartoons while growing up, and for a kid growing up in the 70s, The Incredible Hulk was essential viewing, along with Buck Rogers and the Dukes of Hazzard. But Thor certainly never interested me. I always liked my heroes to be aliens who came to Earth with superpowers, or ordinary people altered by some radioactive incident. I was never interested in Norse mythological gods. And the closest I ever got to enjoying Thor was the Adventures in Babysitting." Okay.
Adventures in Babysitting?
Yeah, that's what it says. Adventures in Babysitting.
Okay.
As for Captain America, being British, the name alone was enough for me to think of him as more than a little irrelevant. This lack of Adventures interest at all meant that, with the exception of the first Iron Man, I hadn't got around to watching any of the other movies. And I owned the Iron Man on DVD for over 6 months before chucking it on and watching it. So I was really happy when you announced an Avengers marathon before the main movie release. At last my chance to jump on board the Avengers train. So I set about watching along with the Blackdog faithful. So, the first Iron Man is rewatched, and I wanted to leave some Iron Man feedback, but I found myself with nothing to say. It wasn't great, it wasn't awful, it was enjoyable enough, and that was that. I really wanted to leave Hulk feedback. In fact, I tried to record my MP3 on numerous occasions, but I couldn't think of anything to say, and I drifted off the topic a lot. And join the club, it's the fucking podcast. Listen to it, man. It's exactly what it is. I tutted many times, again, same thing, and I huffed into the mic often and eventually gave up. I had problems with the film, but I couldn't quite get my finger on what it was. Listening to your show, I realised what it was. The film was good, but not quite complete. All the character-building storyline was missing, and I had picked up on this, but was unaware of the missing minutes. I had found The Incredible Hulk disappointing. So we come to Iron Man 2. I have just watched it for the very first time, and you know what? It was okay. Nothing groundbreaking for me. Nothing that excited my inner child. Nothing that made me punch the air and yell, "Fuck yeah!" At least, not much. I think I preferred it to the first Iron Man, just about. It was certainly miles ahead of The Incredible Hulk. Stark is fun, the story was fun, and everything was fun. It was a fun movie, and I'm glad I've seen it. But it failed to ignite the Avengers' excitement, and I seriously doubt that Thor or Captain America are going to do that for me. Perhaps it's because I'm missing that nostalgia kick from childhood. Perhaps it's just gone a bit weird, but who can say? For now, that's where I am with it all. I'm going to stick with you and watch the last two. May even make an effort to go and see the Avengers on the big screen, but for me, they are all proving to be a tad overhyped. Bye for now, peace out, and all that other kind of shite. And so, do you think that's true? Do you think it's partly kids' nostalgia kick on this?
I think he may find Thor the sort of thing he's looking for, because I think it's the humour more than anything else that takes that film. It's it's not so serious Thor. That, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the most fun movie out of a lot of them. It's I don't know. The trailer doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
as I found out.
Well, we'll see, because obviously
You know.
we're watching that next week, so
I think he'll have a better
it'll
time
be
with Thor.
interesting to see if you've got any other feedback on that, and by all means send it in. Even if I do marmalise it with my usual deft reading.
You were pretty good there. You didn't screw up at all there.
Well, you just weren't listening then.
No, I wasn't. I was thinking of
Cheese.
ScarJo.
No. Minnie
Happy
Ripperton.
place. ScarJo's gone.
Minnie Ripperton's back in her box. She's not coming out.
That's it. Ripperton, shut your face.
Fucking Ripperton, stay there. Right. Next piece of feedback is from Sean McGowan. Melissa and Sean. And
Is it both?
I guess so, but it's written, so it's not an MP3. So he writes, or she writes, or they write, depending on your point of view. Hey Lee, hey Darren. Hope this makes it to the post. Sean and Melissa here. We didn't have time to record, but sending some written feedback so that we can keep a perfect record for the Avengers films. We'll keep it short and sweet. Iron Man 2 is entertaining. A fun film, but not as enjoyable as the original. Enjoyed it better than Hulk, though, which, to be clear, we did enjoy, just weren't wowed by it. Our only criticism for Iron Man 2 is it seemed like a blatant setup piece for the Avengers and didn't really completely stand on its own as a result. While other films in the series all had hints, traces, leanings towards assembling the Avengers initiative, this film was more set to hit you over the head with "We're setting up the Avengers movie," though through the expanded use of Nick Fury and Agent Coulson. There's a little hint at the bottom saying, P.S. If we can be allowed for an unsolicited opinion, Agent Coulson is our favourite character in the entire series. Yes, we're even considering the Avengers themselves. He's really so subtly badass, he's like a nerdy Steve McQueen. When it comes to time to do Captain America, you should own or rent the Blu-ray, and please be sure to watch the extras called Something Funny Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer. Agent Coulson is the shit.
He is. Yep.
Anyway, and they continue. And of course the introduction of Natalia Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. Making them such an integral part of the story made it film less about Tony's journey and more about the story to come, and it took away from the experience just a bit. Speaking of Tony's journey, while Stark's narcissism is definitely an essential part of his character, it seems like this film ignored or even erased much of his personal growth from the first film. It's as if the character completely forgot why he became Iron Man in the first place, which I have to say is probably hitting the nail on the head what I felt about him, I think. I mean, it does seem like that Firefly-style Mal Reynolds reset. He's the same character, but not the same character.
Yeah, but it kind of does that at the end of the film. He's not being Iron Man by the end of it. He's not being Iron Man because he's doing good. He's being Iron Man because he wants to be a superhero, and he's like, he gets disappointed because nobody sees him as that. And it's like, well, that's not the mark of a true hero, is it? You know, it's...
No. But
he's an attention seeker.
But at the end of Iron Man 1, it's because he's Iron Man because he wanted to basically rid the world of the weapons he created. That was the whole point.
Yeah, but this is the thing, if that was more important, it wouldn't have been... He wouldn't have stood there and been so hurt when the woman didn't consider him to be a superhero, and like, you know, it was like, this is an ego thing for him again. It's not, you know,
which is kind of what
lost that.
Sean's saying here, because he kind of gets reset essentially.
Yeah, but as I say, I reckon, from me, from my point of view, they do that at the end of Iron Man 1.
Okay.
Anyway, because there, I mean, you know, in Iron Man 1 there is that desperation to try and do right, because he's feeling that massive amount of guilt when he sees all his weapons. It's like that left a mark on him, but by the end of the film, when he's doing that whole you know, the press conference, it's like that has been forgotten, and it's more like, you know, hey, I can't wait oh, look at me, I'm Iron Man, aren't I so fucking cool?
Yeah.
That's what it degenerates to. Okay. So it's not just this film where that fault lies. It's the first one.
Elbow.
I've just hurt my elbow, and it's amazing that I didn't just go, ah!
Right, okay. Well, while you're nursing your elbow, I'll finish up with Sean's. Yep. He says, on a side note, I love seeing the little Easter eggs hinting at the other Avengers movies. Most notable for me is at the end in the warehouse when you see live TV coverage from the Hulk rampaging versus the military on the college campus, and of course there's a Captain America shield appearance. All well done. Overall, we would rank the films thus far as thus: Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk. Have a feeling there will be some shifting of the order after the next one, though, with a little winky smile at the end. Peace out, Melissa and Sean. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sean. So, next piece of feedback, moving swiftly on, is Ollie Peters, Six Claw Paw.
Our very own Thundercat.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, Lion-O. We shall call him Ollie Lion.
Lion-O Blair.
Yeah. Lion Ollie.
Lion Ollie.
Lion Ollie.
A lion lolly.
Okay, let's stop that now.
No, we're going off on too many strips. Right. Okay, so
he writes, "Hello, dudes. Oh, it's good to be back. So, Iron Man 2, Drunken Master. Not quite as good as the first, but still an enjoyable film. I think there's a little too much Avengers theme in this film, which is kind of taken away from the main plot, which I think is pushed to one side. I don't think that much time was given to the final battle. Much like the first, Iron Man was pretty much a secondary character. It's basically an introduction to the Black Widow. No, Minnie Ripperton. No.
I'll put me Minnie Ripperton away.
Put your Minnie away. Right. Agent Straightface and Mr. Fury, along with Mr. Rockwell, who is awesome, and of course War Machine. I don't care much for Mr. Gravelly Russian, especially in Monte Carlo scene, which was so poor, especially when Whiplash walks straight onto the track, starts ripping up the cars, and no one in the crowd blinks an eye. Jon Favreau is pointless. I would have been much preferred to Black Widow to go on to... this is him going...
Yep.
To go into Hammer, kick some ass whilst he stayed in the car. Walked in and saw what she did. Gobsmacked. I'm not that I'm going to trade punches with the one dude. With just one... Gobsmacked. Not watch him trade punches with just one dude. Okay. I did like Stark scenes. Him demolishing the house to make a new element. Buying strawberries with a watch. Don't touch me, I have a thing about touching. Ha ha ha. The beginning hearing when he hacks into the TVs, and his speech at the end about the Avengers Initiative. Sat in Pepper's office distracted by whirling thing made me giggle. We need more Stark. Yeah, that...
I did like that as well. Can you make this thing stop?
Yeah, it's kind of distracting, the spinny rotating stop. Anyway, okay, so it's probably coming in late, but I could go on. But hey, it's Iron Man. Till next week, Avengers. Six Claw Paw Ollie. Grrr. P.S. Shame they cut out Black Widow's hair for the Avengers, but I still tap that. P.P.S. Notice that I'm from the UK and didn't say Avengers Assemble. Fuck you, America. Anyway, moving on. Thank you very much for that, Ollie.
Yes, cheers, Ollie.
Next one is Gavin J. So, he writes, "Howdy, gents. Hope you're both well. First off, fucking top work on the Mass Effect cast. Enjoyed that a lot, and it's great to hear how other people's playthroughs went, and I wasn't the only big girl's blouse. But, on to this week's film. Iron Man 2. I really enjoyed it. It was all the stuff I liked in the first one, with added bonus Scarlett Johansson." Stop. No.
Not going there. It's fine. I'm fine there. I'm all right. Calm down.
Yeah. Granted, the furniture outacted her, but damn! There you go. Tony Stark is the kind of guy you immediately see him and think, oh, you cocky prick. But I still liked him. The first sequence is just this in a nutshell. When he comes out of his suit first in the expo, you think, oh, you bellend, but you still like him. It's a weird, but, maybe.
Did you see the deleted scene? Or should the alternative opening?
What, with all the other... Oh, where she throws the helmet out and he goes after it.
Yeah, but did you see what he's doing at the start of the scene?
No.
He's throwing up in a toilet because he's too nervous about going down to the expo. And I tell you what, if you watch that, you see just how good the computer effects are, because the bottom half is... He hasn't got any trousers, any Iron Man trousers on. He's just got these marks to show where the suit's going to go. Yeah. The top half is all completely sort of like proper real thing, but the bottom half, CG.
Again.
Amazing.
Again, see? Anyone who says that they spot chunky CG, fuck off.
No,
you can't.
There's
spot
some good
CG.
work. There's some good special effects work in that.
So, anyway, Gavin continues. Fantastic back and forth, especially getting War Machine involved so Tony can riff off someone whilst robot fighting is happening. Making that bit I found a little bit... in the first, a little bit more boring, even better. Making that bit I found in the first a little boring, even better. Okay.
Yeah.
Loved that Justin Hammer and Tony relation. Hammer is an oily little bastard and had a nice story throughout as the second place guy. I thought mixing drinking problem with the soup poisoning suit poisoning him was a good idea and let them do an interesting storyline. Whiplash, yeah, he was alright. Pretty good villain. Did he need the suit in the end though? I don't think Whiplash really stepped up to the plate on the villain scale, but Hammer made up for it, made up for the lacking. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it may be better than Iron Man. I had more fun watching it than I did Iron Man, which surprised me. I did feel that there were many stories going on at once, though. Maybe a little bit, but the film moved through with enough pace and wrapped the storylines up satisfyingly enough. I'd be lying if I said Black Widow made much of a narrative impact, or that Rhodey wasn't every bit as dull. But whilst I was watching, I didn't really care. I was just on board and enjoying the ride. So yeah, in short feedback from me, but loving the Avenger tie-in film so far, barring Stan fucking Lee. Peace out.
Thank you, Gavin.
Gavin,
I'm glad there's I'm not one of the only ones.
Right, so moving on from Gavin, we have Andy Pulistides, and he writes, "Hey guys, just a quickie today. No, honestly, I mean it this time. I didn't hate Iron Man 2 per se, and I don't think it's a bad movie, but I think the fundamental problem is not as fun as Iron Man 1. Thank you. There was a lot more expectation, and they had to shoehorn much of the Avengers stuff into it as well. I did hear a lot of negative feedback at the time, so I didn't go in expecting much, which was a good thing because it didn't deliver much. I don't think Mickey Rourke worked as Whiplash. At the very least, he was not as strong as Jeff Bridges' Ironmonger. Enjoyed the scenes with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and the hints of his alcoholism were nice to see. But really, my overall impression from the film was it was just treading water and filling in times till the Avengers arrived. Anyway, that's all from me. See, told you it'd be quick. Andy, I haven't been indoctrinated because I know the voices in my head tell me so. Pulistides." So there you go. Thank you very much for that, Andy, and well done on a very brief, easily to read email.
Very much so.
Yes,
that must have been very difficult.
Anyway, moving on. Thank you again. Iron Man 2 feedback from Matt Jones. So, Matt writes, "Greetings, Lee and Darren. It's been a while since I sent feedback, but I finally caught up with your Avengers rewatch, and I must say I'm rather enjoying this build-up to the eagerly awaited assembling of these heroes. I think that Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk are very solid films, and it seems that most of my fellow Blackdoggers agree. But now on to Jon Favreau's Iron Man 2, which I'd only seen once before on a copied disc in a slightly drunken state. That was a bit disjointed though, wasn't it? Lots of exposition, very little action until the final half hour. I enjoyed the early expo scenes and the Iron Man vs War Machine scrapping and the Monaco showdown, but all the action was there in the first two acts, and none of these sequences lasted long. In between these parts, I found myself getting pretty bored with some of the plot stuff. Okay, it was good to see Sam Jackson and Favreau giving slightly bigger roles, and Don Cheadle was tad better than Terrence Howard as Rhodey. But along with Mickey Rourke and Scarlett Johansson, they were all largely wasted. Rourke as Vanko especially suffered as he was stuck in Justin Hammer's facility for the majority of the film, and only suited up far too briefly at the end. Is it too much to ask for the writer to have given him something more interesting and fun to do? Justin Theroux previously co-wrote Tropic Thunder, which I really enjoyed, and I was really disappointed with his work here. The humour was also not good, as the first Iron Man and several scenes fell flat. Also, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper just came across as annoying in this one, and her CEO plotline went nowhere. It was only there to give her something to do, as she was one of the biggest names in the film, and I could have done without her. I think the main problem is that they were trying to fit too many main characters into too much Avengers setup into one film, which was at the expense of some decent action sequences. With the origin story done, the second installment in the superhero movie should have been more of a focus on the action and been more entertaining. X-Men 2, Spider-Man 2, Superman 2 are all fine examples of sequels that improve on the original, but it seems like they wanted to go in a different route here, and I don't think they pulled it off. I did like the archive footage of Howard Stark, which ties nicely into Captain America and gives Tony a bit of backstory. The final action sequences were fairly good when they finally arrived, but on the whole it has to be the weakest of the 5 movies for me. Oh well, bring on Thor rewatch next week. Until then, I'm off to find something a bit more exciting to watch. Now where's my Stallone box set? Later chaps. Matt J. Thank you very much for that, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Whew, we're battling through them now. Right, okay. Thank you very much, Matt. I think he's right. it should have just hit the ground running. It shouldn't have just been plot, 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 with nothing much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the whole mentioning of X-Men 2, Spider-Man 2, Superman 2. Which I know you don't necessarily agree with Superman 2, but I do. Don't look at me like that.
Bit of a problem with Spider-Man 2 as well, but there you
fuck.
go.
Right off. Anyway.
All I'll say is, here we go, look, I'm Peter Parker. Yes, that's me in the Spider-Man suit. Would anybody else like to know who I am? Thank you very much. Then we'll do that when we go and watch the film.
Thunderdome that fucker if you're going to do that.
I don't hate it that much. It's just... But anyway, sorry. I'm going off on one. It's the bus moment. That's all it is. That's the bus in that film.
Okay. Calm. You're in the field with Heather Locklear.
No.
Scarlett Johansson. No.
Yeah. No, go on. Anyway, carry on.
Right. Howard Sandbrook. He of the memorial microphone. So, he writes... Evening, gents. Hopefully I'm not the only one who's going to say stuff like this, but if I am, and everyone loves this, remember, I'm normally very nice. Right, let's go. Iron Man 2 isn't really a very good film. Unlike its predecessor, this film jumps from plot to plot in a clunky, generally idiotic way. Characters making retarded decisions, stupid attempts to strong-arm in many different reveals that are going to help people better understand the up-and-coming Avengers film. Well, with Whedon in control, we're likely going to be needing them, to be honest. Well, let's be fair to this film, though. It's never going to be a patch on the first film. We'll kick off with the beginning, shall we? Tony Stark is founded world peace with the aid of his Iron Man armour. He sets up a great big techno geekgasm with big back slapping exposition, and here in the UK we usually call it the Gadget Show Live, just devoid of arsehole presenters. He's in Stum with the US government because they've decided that the flying metal suit is actually a weapon, and in America you're not allowed to have one of those. I'm not going to start, but can you see how this is starting to shape up as a bit of an unfathomable in light of events of recent in the previous film? So, we skip to Mickey Rourke playing Mickey Rourke with an accent, actually many different accents in fact, and he was trendy in 2010, so let's shoehorn him in here. He's in Russia, you can tell that because there's snow and he's drinking vodka, and from a bottle no less, and he's watched his father die, but not before Popper's given his son a pep talk on how it should have been him and Ivan up there on the TV talking the US government talking to the US government for having a flying metal suit too. Ivan's smart though, guys, and he's going to make his own arc reactor, and he's also going to make his own suit, one that has whips and a huge amount of energy, etc., and he's going to go to Monaco. Cue record scratch sound effect. How the fuck does he know that Tony Stark is going to Monaco? Has he gotten hold of his itinerary? I could have missed something, but I'm usually pretty good at this sort of thing. Even having consumed half a bottle of gin, I'm pretty sure no one said to Ivan that Tony is going to Monaco, or going to drive around the track. If memory serves me, wasn't the driver of the aforementioned fast car pretty pissed off when Tony turned up on the track to drive instead of him? So, why then was Ivan going there? Why was he approaching the track in the first place? How did he know where, and how did he know? Are his fucking electro whips clairvoyant? Skip to my particular gripe with this film. Why the fuck was Pepper in the car with Happy taking Tony his armour? Wouldn't Happy have protected the CEO of a mega corporation? No. Instead we get some schlocky bullshit comedy skit whilst his extrasensory whip-wielding Remzoid is trying to kill the protagonist. I fucking hate this film. I hate the fact they shoehorned War Machine in such a clunky way. Tried to give it levity by adding more characters. Scarlett Norks Johansson Romanoff was pointless and essentially plopping in for the sake of 2 comedy moments. Nick Mace Bad Motherfucker Windu Fury was yet another stupid character buffered in there as well. Just fucking pointless, and to be honest, why bother? Barring the annoying characters threatening a man who can, should the notion take him, beat them all to a pulp. People like Agent Coulson, for example, who openly threatens Tony with physical harm. I know nothing really of the Avengers legacy, but all we've seen of Coulson is that he smiles a lot and drives out to New Mexico and is generally Fury's bitch. Sam Rockwell plays Sam Rockwell. He's presumably having done better playing Zaphod in there as well, although you could argue that he actually did. Ugly Paltrow clumsily stomping around in high heels. Comical, really. Seriously, give them both another watch and you'll see that the silly Munter can't even walk in her high heels.
She can't.
No.
It's a lost art.
Did we really need War Machine this early on in the proceedings? Couldn't we have gone a bit more in the way of Iron Man dealing with his own troubles rather than clumsily adding War Machine in lip service in my opinion, to fans who weren't even asking for it in the first place? The bad guys were doomed from the minute one. They made out Hammer was an incompetent and that's precisely what he was. Ergo, he was not a threat and neither was his equipment. Whether he had super hard steel-skulled physicist computer genius on his side or not, they were doomed. Add War Machine to the odds and no one was ever going to go in there. Nothing else was going to go in their favour. Nothing was really necessary in this film. In fact, the whole film wasn't necessary, to be honest, at all. I'd rather have seen the single film of each character and then have this. Well, you could happily pluck it from the collection and miss nothing. There's enough exposition throughout the other films without taking this into account as well, in my opinion. Darren, you were right on the post-credit sequence, though. They're not always useful. In this particular case, why bother? We all know that Thor's coming out in the next juncture. So why would it have been cooler if Coulson had just gone to New Mexico and Thor just tipped the nod to what was happening with Stark, etc.? Don't quite know what they're saying.
Can I just say that when I actually saw the hammer when I was sitting in the cinema, I knew it was coming, but nothing. I mean, I knew it was going to show up, but I must admit, I did a squee noise when I saw the hammer, and it's like that looks exactly like the hammer you see in the comics. It was just. I know it's a very simple design, but it's just.
It worked for you.
It worked for me. It's like, that's Thor's hammer.
Right. Rushing through. Iron Man 2 equals Iron Man sequel that didn't need to be made. It didn't need to have half the characters in it, and it didn't need half the pointless fight scenes, and it definitely did not need half the jokes. It could have been funnier and with half the pointless joke building sequences. So in Iron Man 2 you have no threat, no story, no soul. Definitely not one of Marvel's finest, but then it was doomed from the offset. This film couldn't have been released in any other form. Too much studio nonsense and second guessing what the public wanted. They could have gone to a third film before introducing War Machine storyline, in my opinion. Whilst it looked cool, it was, like much of the rest of the film, a resounding failure. Sad face, Howard. So he wasn't happy.
No, he's quite on the extreme there, I think. Yeah.
Right, okay, so the next piece of feedback is from Steve Murray, over down south in Australia way. And he writes, "Hello guys, just a few quick thoughts on Iron Man 2. Yes, it's overblown with too many things thrown into the melting pot, and yes, it's just a bridge for the Avengers, but it's still fun to watch. Again, the entire film is carried solely on the charisma of Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and Cheadle is a vast improvement on Terrence Howard, I think. Whilst Mickey Rourke just looked like someone's dotty uncle who just kept wandering around trying to find out where he left the cheese, and Gary Shandling plays to his strengths by playing Gary Shandling."
That's another man who signed up for a subscription to Botox Weekly.
Ooh,
Gary Shandling. Did you see his face? It was like, I'm surprised he could smile at all.
He did look like someone had inflated him.
Didn't he just?
Or deflated him from some larger size.
There was an awful lot of effort to smile in that face.
Yes. It's no improvement on the first film, but it's still a serviceable inclusion on the Avengers preamble. So guys, hopefully I'll get more time next week on Thor, a film I didn't really like that much on first watch, so I'm looking forward to going back again and giving it a second chance. Cheers guys, and have a great cast. Steve. Thank you very much, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Last two pieces of written feedback, and we're into Rosmosis. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so she writes, "Hello, Black Dogs. Just a quick note from me to say I loved Iron Man 2. Not as good as Iron Man, but I really enjoyed it. Its only real flaw was it was sagging in the middle, but I can forgive that purely on the basis of the final battle between Iron Man, War Machine and Whiplash, which was utterly awesome. Plus it had the utterly adorable line of, 'You look like two seals wrestling over a grape.' Is it time for Thor yet, please? Dirty deeds done cheap. Rosmosis."
My favourite line, of course, in that is when Scarlett Johansson hands Robert Downey Jr. the cocktail and says, "Is that dirty enough for you?" Oh, yeah. There we go. Should have won
No.
an Oscar just for the script, just for that line.
Just stop there. Minnie Ripperton's
Yes,
kicking at
yes,
that
yes,
box.
yes. She's gone home now. She's taken the bus. Is
Okay.
it?
Right, okay, so last piece of written feedback is from Kevin the Rainan. Kevin, who has been a fervent supporter of the Blackdog, because I basically keep wandering into his Avid suite and go, bloody listen!
Has he ever sent us in feedback before?
No.
He hasn't.
This is his first
It's his feedback cherry.
feedback cherry.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. So, he writes, hello, doggers of the black variety. 108 episodes in, and I finally thought I'd put a finger to keyboard. I decided I'd better catch up with a slew of Marvel movies before Avengers Assemble or whatever the hell they're going to do. I've seen Iron Man 2 once before, but I'm damned if I can remember anything about it. It turns out there was a good reason for that. I loved the first Iron Man movie, and it had reasonably high hopes for the sequel. Unfortunately, this film is really quite boring. What's exactly the plot? I'm not really sure there is one. So Tony Stark is ill. There's an arms race to create an Iron Man equivalent. That's sort of it. Mickey Rourkes as Whiplash pops in now and again. Sam Rockwell gives a great performance, but I didn't really care about any of it. Part of the problem is that Tony Stark is the ironclad dick of the highest order. In the first movie, at least we have a sympathetic note to Tony. In the sequel, he's just a pure cock. Pepper Potts is even more annoying than in the first movie. Someone just slap her for God's sake. And I didn't quite follow the motivation of Rhodey's actions. Why did he make a personal promise that Iron Man would be back in the sky? And who to? I thought the army wanted the suit handed over. How did he get past the security measures? They even pointed out in the movie. And what did he really think the army would do with it? It just doesn't add up. Other than that, there was more CGI in the movie than the first one. Sure, there was some stuff about S.H.I.E.L.D., which helps the whole Avengers thing a little, but it doesn't really warrant on the need for this movie. It feels as though this movie was an afterthought to the notion that we needed a slew of movies to support the Avengers. That's it. Going now. Bye, Kev. Thank you, Kev.
Cheers, man.
And well done. I'm glad I popped his cherry by actually not fucking his reading up quite so much. Right. Okay. Well, we are really running late on time.
Yes.
We have some MP3 feedback to get through. Oh my. Someone said, oh good God. Right. Yes, and if someone knows someone called Alistair Jessup, can I just say that you're spamming my email account, Alistair Jessup. Don't send me email again. Fuck
Alistair
you.
Jessup?
What? I don't know. Right. Okay, so let's get some feedback down. We'll start off with Colin.
You made some valid points about the first Iron Man, but my love for that film is pretty much undimmed. However, I can't really say the same thing about Iron Man 2. I have one really big issue with Iron Man 2, and it's probably not the one you're thinking of. The science in Iron Man 2 is bollocks. You might say it's pedantic to complain about the science in a comic book movie, but you have to understand I'm a former chemistry student, so this kind of thing really, really bugs me, and it is just not scientifically possible to make a brand new element, a stable brand new element, in a lab you've jerry-rigged in your basement. You just can't do it. Add that to the fact that palladium is only as toxic as aspirin, and you have yet another level of bad science in this film. Sure, if you ate palladium by the ton, you would probably die, but you're not going to have the instant life or death reaction that Tony Stark has to palladium in this film. I can get behind the science in the majority of comic book films. I'm willing to believe that you can create an arc reactor and make it so small and have unlimited energy. And expanding into the wider Marvel universe, I believe that there could be an adamantium alloy which is super strong and super sharp, these things are feasible. But Iron Man 2 gets into specifics, saying it's a created brand new element and saying that you can get seriously ill very quickly from consuming palladium. And neither of those things are true. Overall, the film, I think, more or less works, but I find it really hard to get past that bad science. The set pieces are good, although not as good as in the first Iron Man. I thought the flying F1 cars were excessive, although I have to admit the suitcase Iron Man suit was awesome. And I also think the whole aspects of the demon in the bottle storyline that were put into the film are very nicely done. You do get the impression that without this imminent life or death situation, Tony Stark might actually have become a better person. It's noticeable that in the first film, when he goes on his private jet, he makes the stewardesses become strippers. And on this film, he spends 3 hours making pepper and omelette. I think he has changed, but this whole snarky playboy persona is still there because of not wanting to die and wanting to live life to the full. So I think that is nicely handled. And I actually also think the whole Avengers thing was pretty nicely integrated as well. I'm sure that will be the main source of criticism for this film. But personally, I thought it was nicely done and didn't ruin the movie in any true way. I think the issue is that trying to do all three of these things, setting up the Avengers movie, having the awesome set pieces, having the Demon in the Bottle storyline, they were trying to do too much at once. I mean, let's face it, you didn't need Black Widow, Whiplash and Justin Hammer all appearing in this film at the same time. Justin Hammer and Whiplash pretty much disappear for the middle third of the film. So there's too much going on and the science is bad. But it's still an enjoyable film, so I'd just about give it a pass and call it a rose-tinted specs.
Oh, thank you very much, Colin. There you go.
Yeah, cheers, dude.
Okay, and I mentioned Colin's podcast location last week was rawfootage.co.uk. I forgot to mention there was a hyphen between raw and footage, and so if you went to that other site, you ended up with a photography site. So I can only apologise for that. So you can find Colin at raw-footage.co.uk, and he basically interviews people coming out the cinema at the same time.
Yes, he does.
Film. Right, brilliant. Okay, so we must move on. We've got to move on, to use John Hurt's words. And we have Martin Thompson, who's without Glenn this week. And he's watched Iron Man 2 and he thinks this.
Hello, I'm Martin Thompson, and if you can count on me to do one thing, it's pleasure myself. Iron Man 2. Right, next one in the Marvel lot. I think this is the second time I've seen it. Again, it's it felt like more of the same, but that's no bad thing. It was a bloody enjoyable film. One of the standout sequences for me, so it must be that whole racetrack fight with Mr. Whippy, and absolutely love the Iron Man suit as well. And that's just the technology's just come on very well. Again, you got Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. He just carries the whole thing through. His charisma. I mean, he's a bit of a dick in the beginning, but I think he needs to be a bit of a dick, because he's got that way to fall down, and he's basically saying, "Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough to anybody." So of course, you get somebody come after him, and as Vanko says, actually make God bleed. One thing I remember as well, I always remember the Tony trying to find a new replacement power source. I always remember him finding that in the model, his father's model. I always remember that as sort of feeling a bit cheesy to me. But watching the sequence again, I just really enjoyed it. Again, Downey Jr. is just brilliant in that scene. the way you're getting the way he just lifts sort of 3D models and makes it into this, makes it into that. It's a brilliant scene. Yeah, it's probably, I don't know, is it the most shield heavy sort of shield heavy so far? Yeah, I've not seen the other two, but I think it's definitely, we can see it again, we can see the continuation of things. And, well, final thoughts, I think, in the end, I think the first film is better, but this one's still very enjoyable. As I say, it was just marvellous as well. Oh, drone design, I love the drones. Thought they were brilliant. I'm looking much forward to Thor next week, as I haven't seen it.
Right, cheers for that, Martin. Thank you for getting the feedback in through the door, and just mentioning once again, from now on we will be sort of doing a cut-off on the emails coming in past 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we don't end up with like 10,000 pieces of feedback turning up while we're recording. But thank you anyway, Martin, for getting it in this time. And right, so we must still power on. He liked it. That's good. I mean, it does seem to be that Iron Man's getting the thumbs up, generally speaking.
Yeah, I
it
think
does
there's only
feel a
like
bit
one or two real
despite
detractors, you know. But okay. Most of it is kind of like either meh or yeah, really enjoyed it,
or it's better than I thought last time round, which is kind of where I sit.
Well, I suppose that's a good thing, you know. As long you know, at least it's not. Well, it's even worse than when I first watched it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, will Brandy and Dave think that? Brandy and Dave, the Inside Outcast, you can find them on geekplanetonline.com or iTunes. Will they like it? Will they not? Let's find out.
Hi, Blackdog.
Hi.
Now, if you're into the comic books, you know who Nick Fury is. He's Marvel's answer to James Bond, essentially. I stopped collecting comics before the Ultimates. To me, Nick Fury's some cranky old white dude.
I always pictured him as Clint Eastwood myself.
Yep, Clint Eastwood with an eye patch. How he's portrayed in these Marvel films, I just don't get it. Because to me, he comes across like a regional manager of like a chain of McDonald's.
Oh my god.
He just comes in and talks. And that's about it. You don't get this indication that somehow he's skilled and this highly trained agent. He's just...
Yeah, you don't see him do anything.
Yeah, you don't see him do anything. He just comes in and drinks coffee and talks and wears a leather jacket and an eye patch.
And speaks in his intimidating way, and that's it.
And not even that well, because after Pulp Fiction, I think Sam Jackson just phones it in. If you just go in as a movie watcher, what's Nick Fury? What's the big deal?
You don't even see him doing anything in the Avengers previews.
Yeah, you don't see him pull a gun. You don't see him fight. I mean,
you just see him talking.
Yeah. Black Widow, you get to see a little action.
Yeah.
Nick Fury, nothing. Even Coulson, you get to see, do a couple of things. It's like, you don't even need Nick Fury. Coulson could take care of everything.
Mickey Rourke was awesome.
A lot of people complain about the accent of being very Boris Badenoff, but
no.
A Russian accent is a Russian accent. I mean, it's hard to do it without coming across cliched.
You know what Russian accents are supposed to sound like because you took Russian.
Yes.
I didn't find it to be in any way caricature.
Yeah. The bird thing was his idea.
I actually liked the bird thing.
Yep.
I want my bird.
I want my bird.
No, I want my bird.
This is not my bird.
Your software shit.
Could have had it be a bit deeper. Because that was the thing about Iron Man 2, is it's trying to do too many things. Because it tried to prepare for the Avengers thing, kind of get that rolling, and then you had Tony dealing with his own problems with palladium poisoning or polonium? Palladium? Really? Exactly how does poisoning make your arteries go all circuitry?
That wasn't arteries.
Okay, what was that?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Who cares? I don't care. I don't need that explained to me. All I cared about was that it was full of action. The effects were fantastic, like the whole thing in Monaco with the F1 racing. The cars that got cut in half by his
How did he not get hit by a car?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually one of my favorite sequences in the movie. When Yvonne walks out, takes off the helmet, drops it, and, flings out the whips, and then the thing turns on and it just burns away the top half of his jumpsuit. And then he starts whipping cars in twain. And it was just like, this is fucking awesome! And so...
Have you ever whipped a car in twain? Then you've never lived.
No. Especially with the little suitcase suit. I loved that part.
Which is another thing that if you want to get nitpicky, because that would be really heavy, and they just toss it around like it weighs nothing.
It probably has those things things like his dad was trying to put on the car in the
Oh,
past.
little
to make
hover
it float.
stuff?
Yeah, I don't care.
Or it's vibranium or titanium or
I just
adamantium
don't-
or
I
whatever
don't
other
care.
Marvel metal.
It doesn't matter to me. It's Tony Stark. He's a genius. He was able to build a tiny arc reactor when no one else in the world could. He can do things that we are not going to understand. It's okay with me.
Sam Rockwell as Hammer.
I fucking love Sam Rockwell.
His
Anything.
orange hands from the
I know!
from that spray on tan.
Yes, and you only really see it in the fluorescent lights when he's in that hangar. He's awesome no matter what he does. He's fucking awesome. Why doesn't he have an Academy Award?
What'd you think of Black Widow?
Well, I like Scarlett Johansson when she's playing a character.
Yeah.
She's kind of boring in real life.
Yeah.
The first time you really see her when she comes to do the whole paperwork thing.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, I need your impression. And he says, you got a quiet reserve, an old soul. And she says, your thumbprint. And how she takes down Happy in the boxing ring. She's tenacious without being in your face about it. I know she worked her ass off to be able to do the stuff she did in that film. Yeah. So.
And it does get a little weighed down from all the Avengers stuff. And then there's Ad Lib was so popular in the first one that he was given more room in the second one. And so some things didn't work quite as tightly as they did the first one, but it's still entertaining. I still enjoy Iron Man.
I still
2.
love it. I have it on Blu-ray, DVD, and my iPad.
Yeah.
And I only make room for special movies on my iPad.
And it's fun to watch them back to back.
I just find it really highly entertaining. The digital effects were even better than the first one, because they'd had a couple years.
Yeah, a couple of improvements, and they were given a bit more budget, I imagine.
Pepper was still as stupid as ever. Oh, look, there's a red light blinking on this down robot.
That drove me crazy. She's looking at
And she just keeps staring
that's
at
like
it.
an explosive that's about to kill me. I'll just look
It's like,
at it.
What do you think happens when you hear a red light going beep, beep?
Especially when you hang around
beep.
freaking Tony Stark all day.
Yeah, it's like, that's probably an explosive device. Maybe I ought to fucking run! But she just stands there staring, waiting for someone to save her. She is not my Pepper Potts.
I guess that's all we have time for. So, yes, we like Iron Man 2.
Thumbs up.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so there.
Okay, bye!
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 See ya.
Dutty bye! Yes, they like the Boyd.
They love the Boyd.
And, yes, and if you like Brandy and Dave and their feedback, then you can hear them on the Inside Outcast on Geek Planet Online. Thank you very much, guys, for your feedback. That's really cool. Yes, and Pepper Potts is a fucking dimwit. Let's end the story. Standing there, staring at something that's quite obviously a bomb. Fucking just run. Anyway, doesn't matter. We've done this bit. We've done that anyway. Right, now it's time for... Who's it time for? Neil Shepherd. Neil Shepherd, Commander Shepherd, from the Mass Effect cast that we did last week that you can get on our feed. Let's hear what he says.
Hello, Lee and Darren. Sorry, I'm getting my feedback in at the last minute once again. I will try and be earlier next week. So, on to Iron Man 2. I know you guys aren't fond of this film. I am. I like all the component parts of it. I like all the different bits. You've got things carried over from the last film. You know, Favreau's direction's the same. Danny Jr.'s the same. Gwyneth Paltrow's the same. They're carrying on plot threads like the relationship with Pepper Potts and the implants and negative impacts that they're having on him. And obviously Rhodey becoming War Machine that they hinted at in the first film. Not sure why they replaced the actor. I mean, the implication was that Favreau didn't get on with him personally, but I don't think it's really an improvement. It's kind of the more of the same. Then you've got extra elements, other things they brought in, the conflict with the Senate. Then there's Danny Jr. as he thinks he's dying, developing the Demon in a Bottle style drinking problem from the comics, losing control of the Iron Man suit, and then obviously Rhodey has to come in, take it off him. Then you've got Justin Hammer from the comics, Sam Rockwell, really good, really enjoyable. Mickey Rourke, who's pretty much just Mickey Rourke, but he's fun. The way they've realised Whiplash is real. It's not like the comics. It actually makes sense, and it's quite fun. All good. Then you've got obviously the Whiplash armour, which probably makes sense. The effects are good. You've got all the shield stuff that's developed from the end of the last film. Scarlett Johansson coming in, the build up for the Avengers. All of this is good. It's all good stuff. it's just kind of too much. It's Spider-Man 3 syndrome. There's so much going on that it doesn't really fit together. It's sort of a tesseract that's just a big sheet of stuff and doesn't actually fit a pattern. It's not good. It does ruin the film a bit. That combined with Favreau, who I think was so pissed off that they put all the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff in that he started sabotaging the film, like making his brief cameo as Happy Hogan into some kind of sidekick action hero fist fighting and chatting up Scarlett Johansson, which was just painful. And then when he actually went through with the relationship with Pepper Potts at the end, I think that was just sabotaging the film. Time will tell whether Shane Black can actually make it as good, whether he can compete with Iron Man, the original one. And also I think time will tell with the Avengers, because I know that a lot of directors, Ed Norton, Jon Favreau, they've all gotten pissed off with Marvel shoehorning all of this S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff in. But in all fairness, I think if the Avengers works, then it'll all be worth it. I think that, again, no one's really done this before, with all these different properties actually having this tying thread that comes together in one team-up film. I think that would be fantastic if they pull it off. And it may, may mess up a little bit some of the other films. Iron Man 2 most of all, because one of them had to carry the bulk of the S.H.I.E.L.D. subplot, and it just happened to be that film, and it really does, screw things up a bit. But again, if Avengers is good, it'll all be worth it. So I guess time will tell. Iron Man 2, not as good as the first one, still kind of enjoyable, bit of a muck-up, will be worth it if Avengers comes off. Second one I want to say, just finished listening to the Mass Effect podcast, 4 hours in total, all the way through it. Very enjoyable listen, even though I was there at the time originally, slightly drunk. Great listen, nice work to both of you, particularly nice work to Lee on the editing, really came together. Okay, that's it, and I shall speak to you guys for more feedback next week. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much, Neil.
Yeah, cheers, dude.
And nothing like a good pointing out of the Mass Effect podcast which you were starring in. Well, no, anyway, no, thank you very much. Yeah, it was an editing nightmare, I'll be honest with you, but it was good fun listening to the raw version. And if anyone is insane enough to want a 4-hour version of the Mass Effect Mass Effect Cast Part 2, then by all means send me an email and I'll send you the raw stuff, and you can scream blue murder at your own iPad as you listen to us all waffle on and go off and make cups of tea and what have you. Yes, sounds like Neil's probably on the same wavelength as me as far as this movie's concerned. I wouldn't go as far as to give it a Spider-Man 3 reference, but overall I think he's right. It carried too much, had too much to do, didn't get time to really do it. Bit of a sort of failed attempt, but not overall, not bad movie. Right, well, thank you very much for that, Neil, and you can find Neil's blog, theyhwstoodstill.blogspot.com, at that address right then. Okay, so of course now it's down to our final feedback, and of course we can no way set sail without having Mr. Jim Moon in this cast whatsoever. It's like, as you say, as Darren once pointed out to me, it'd be like the Rourkes leaving the Tower of London if this Blackdog sailed without Mr. Moon.
Yep.
So
London would fall.
We would fall. And so, yes, we give the final word to Mr. Moon on Iron Man 2.
Now then, of all the Avengers rewatching we're doing, it was Iron Man 2 I was least looking forward to. Mainly because the first time I saw it, I came away quite disappointed and just a bit annoyed. It's not that it was a terrible movie, don't get me wrong, but I felt it was a bit flabby and self-indulgent. It seemed to ramble and arse about, where the first one had been lean and mean and got down to business. I felt they let Robert Downey Jr. have perhaps too much free rein, and we had far too much of him muttering really quickly and, whippy mark, However, I have to say, I enjoyed it a lot more the second time around. However, I still think he could do with some judicious trimming here and there. There seems to be a few things that just don't seem to go anywhere, with Favreau just having scenes in to indulge his comic muse. For example, what is all that business about Mickey Rourke and his bird? I expected there'd be a plot point attached to him getting his original cockatoo, that he's going to gut it and pull some secret plans out of its arsehole or something. But no, nothing happens, and instead we just have these scenes with the bird, and it's like a gag waiting for a punchline. If it was meant to be funny, it didn't really work, and it seems the waste of a good setup. You could have at least thrown in the old one about, well, you've had a cockatoo in there. Anyhow, the other problem that struck me on watching this a second time is we have a distinct lack of Iron Man action. I mean, he flies in at the start, and then we don't actually really see the suit in action until about 30 minutes in with the great scene at the racetrack. And then it's, well, a bit thin on the ground again, isn't it? I mean, I know admittedly they were building up to a good 25 minutes of armour power suit action at the end with the whole Attack of the Drones sequence. But really, I think we needed to see Iron Man doing a few more things in the first half, because as it stands, it does feel like Tony Stark 2 and not Iron Man 2. But it has to be said, the action-packed last act does make up for an awful lot. And it's nice to see a film with some good character work unfolding, even though it sometimes is at the expense of the superheroics. However, I do have a minor quibble with the last act. When Electroclash turns up in his suit, they could have had a bit more of a fisticuffs with him. He did go down rather easily. Yes, I know they set up the whole don't cross the beams repulsor way thing earlier, but it'd be nice to have a bit more rough and tumble before then. Again, Favreau seems to sacrifice superheroics for comedy. I mean, the hammer super missile sidewinder thingamajig joke is a damn good one, but at the same time it seemed to come at the expense of some good old-fashioned zap-pow action. Now, on the other hand, I know quite a few people have complained that Iron Man 2 actually lacks having a big proper super villain. However, I found the combination of sneaky old stop just in hammer time and the illustrated Mickey Rourke to be quite effective, and made a pleasant change from them wheeling out some comic book nemesis which I then short-sightedly kill off. Undoubtedly, Iron Man 2 has its rusty patches, as it were, but it's still a very entertaining flick. I mean, yes, I've had a bit of a pop at it here, but I'd have to say I did enjoy it a whole lot more the second time around. And to be honest, the weaknesses in the storyline probably aren't going to matter too much if you sit down and watch Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and then hopefully top it all off with the Avengers, and we can write off any of the narrative weaknesses in Iron Man 2 as middle episode syndrome.
Right, and thank you, Jim, for that. And yes, we really got a power on, so thank you to everyone who sent the feedback in. Thank you to Jim for your feedback, obviously. Good as ever. And, right, well, it's just, we're into the final straight now on the Avengers. And if you didn't know by now, next week we will be covering
Thor.
Thank you very much. So get your Nordic blonde locks out, swing your hammer, throw your fucking scarf around and pretend that you're some Norse god. Someone watch this film and tell me what it is Heimdall does when he's not having people trying to get on his fucking rainbow bridge, because he has no telly, no newspapers. He's so alone.
He's got that new PS Vista, isn't he?
Stuff down his pocket.
It's down his, sort of like his armoured pants.
So, anyway, thank you all very much for listening. Sorry it's run on so long. We will try and keep it shorter next week. And we'll see you all for Thor. Send your feedbacks in to blackdog@geekplanetonline.com or leave it on the Blackdog Facebook group, which is the blackdogpodcast.com. No, not .com, just Blackdog Podcast. And we'll see you all next week. Say goodbye, Darren.
Goodbye, Darren.
There's a
Goodbye.
voice that keeps on calling me down the road. It's where I'll always be. Every stop I make a new friend. Can't stay for long, just turn around and I'm gone again. Maybe tomorrow I'll wanna settle down. Until tomorrow I'll just keep moving on.
Get out of the booth, Jack.
No, I like it in here.